So what is big deal about Kabbalah anyway? Well, let me tell you. In Soviet Russia, you get kapusht. The
Kabbalah Gabush.
babushka, the big babushka himself, Mr. Putin, he says he don't like Kabbalah, but he Kabbalah every day. He go around and around in circles. He eat the drink of the borscht.
He like a
Yeah.
Kabbalah the Gabush.
He like an AK-47 Kalishnikov because it sounds like a Kabbalah. I don't know where I'm going. It's more Italian. You get it. You
Yeah,
guys.
it turns slowly from Russian into ciabatta bread, you know.
Yeah. It's
But yeah, man, I think it's crazy that the guy sort of and I showed him like the councils wherein like you know uh, Orthodoxy has condemned Freemasonry, and his response was like, "Oh, those are just fake men of God or something," um,
of
they
course.
don't know what they're talking about.
Stop. Wait. Yeah. Yeah. I saw that part. It's like basically just making shit up on the thing. Like, oh, they're just making it up because they're offended or something. It's like
No,
and
they're
like,
not. It's
but
just
I think
funny.
that's that's the thing about the Kabbalah and stuff like that is like it just gives you endless ways to like twist things out of context and like hide what you're doing and all this shit. So
Right, and the whole thing is like, yeah, we believe in Christ or like Adam Cadman, you know what I mean? It's like what these obscure the obscure words that mean something completely else to the Mason or to the Kabbalist, uh where they can sort of, trap people into these like seemingly Christian ideas, but really it's like a mask for their satanic occultism. Um, which you talk to the Kabbalists and like they do the same thing. They'll say like, yeah, we're fine with Christ, Christ consciousness. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very strange how they get around like not the teachings of Christ and the church. And the funny thing is they want to bring it into the church, right? Um they're not just happy being Freemasons, they want to be Orthodox Freemasons in their minds. So bring this perennialist, satanic heresy with them, which has always been the case throughout, history. Like that, heretics want to be a part of the church. Why? Because it gives them some form of legitimacy that they wouldn't have otherwise, right? Because otherwise it would just be like, oh, it's just some weird group, you know? But that's why I feel like they infiltrate the Catholic Church and like infiltrate Orthodoxy and other bodies is because they want the external legitimacy of like whatever that organization has. So they can put on the skin suit of an Orthodox while secretly like in the shadows worship Satan. That seems to be like really what that's about, like from my understanding. Um, and that's why I love the church. It doesn't accept that. It doesn't allow them to kind of get away with this lie, and it confronts them, and it's like taking it to council, and like there's multiple saints that have exposed it for what it is. Um, the sad part is though is like, oh, okay, like um now it's in a situation where the patriarchs and they're Freemasons, and they won't come out and condemn Freemasonry like the ones in the past would. It just won't happen. So since I'm talking to myself, because Neurojack starts a stream and then he just leaves, I'm gonna present some things because I got it like that. You know what I mean? All right. So,
my bad.
oh, what'd you fall out?
No, I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me, so I had to reset it. I don't know what happened.
No, it's the Masons.
They cut. Yep, they're the Kabbalah Bros are after us. Oh yeah, so that reminds me. Pinoid made an article saying,
I seen it.
did you read it? I didn't read it yet.
No, I've read it. Yeah, he's just shilling once again, dude. I, I don't pay attention to that guy. It's rage bait.
Peter Thiel was recently interviewed by Russ Duthat. Oh my gosh,
Oh, I didn't see.
37
I didn't
minutes.
read that. No, I didn't read that.
Okay, and then 7 minutes in, the question was asked whether humanity should endure. Thiel hesitated several times with his answer before he spoke. Here's a transcript, and then Thiel says, "I would, but
Human.
yeah." So check this out. Let me read this. Here we go. Here we go. Should the human race survive? Yes, okay, but I also would like us to radically solve these problems, and so it's always I don't know. Yeah, transhumanism is the ideal. Is this ideal? Is this the ideal? What? Oh my God, this doesn't even make sense. Was this radical transformation where the human body, the human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body? And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in the sexual context, or the transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses, and a transsexual is someone where you change your, I don't know, penis into a vagina. And we can then debate how well those surgeries work, but we want more transformation than that. It's the critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. Man, it's so pathetically little, and we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body, and then Orthodox Christianity. By the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of these things don't go far enough like that. Transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul, and you need to transform your whole self. And so, and then the other guy says, well, let me see.
So wait. You notice he brings up orthodoxy, right?
Right.
Right. Now why? Okay. It's like, why are you bringing up orthodoxy? I feel like unconsciously they know, like, we have the true faith and we have the truth, you know, and that's why we're their greatest enemy. Like the transhumanists, the Kabbalists,
Well,
like, you know, because we know what they are.
well, check this out. Then it says, I think any. So the other guy says, I think any idea of divine providence has to encompass the fact that we have progressed and achieved and done things that would have been, and hey, Chris, by the way, unimaginable to our ancestors, but still also seems like, yeah, the promise of Christianity in the end is you get the perfected body and the perfected soul through God's grace, and the person who tries to do it on their own with a bunch of machines is likely to end up as a dystopian character. And then it says, and you have a heretical form of Christianity. That says something. And then Thiel says, I don't know. I think the word nature does not occur once in the Old Testament. And so if you and there is a word.
What was that? Huh? My door. Oh, it sounded like glass shattering. It sounded like glass shattered.
We smoke shatter around here now. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So, and then it says, and so if you, in the word, in the sense, in the Judeo-Christian inspiration, is it about transcending nature? It is about overcoming things. And the closest thing you can say to nature is that people are fallen, and that's a natural thing in a Christian sense. I don't even know if this is correct. This is like a weird translation. And then, but there's some ways that with God's help, we're supposed to transcend and overcome that. But the people, if you present what you're saying is accepted, present company accepted,
most of the people working to build hypothetical machines, God doesn't think they're cooperating with Yahweh, Jehovah, the Lord of Hosts. And then it says, Theo, they think that they're building immortality on their own. Yeah, right. We're jumping around a lot of things. So again, the critique I was saying is they're not ambitious enough. From a Christian point of view, these people are not ambitious enough.
Wait. He's talking about
Now,
Orthodox Christians and theosis not being
I don't know. It's
ambitious
kind of
enough.
jumbled. It's kind of jumbled the ways, but he's saying, but they're not. But he's saying, but this other guy says, what you're saying, are Christians not morally and spiritually ambitious enough? And Thiel said they are.
What the
Uh,
hell is he talking about? This is smoke screening, dude. So it's like, oh
but
well, we want to do like reverse theosis to where you're going to be like, this perfect machine being.
oh yeah. Oh here's where it gets good. Here it is. He says, well, let's approach this from a human perspective. I am a human. I kind of like being a human. I was having a conversation with my father the other day about how people who want to live forever just haven't lived. I told him I am fucking sick of this shit. I am tired of working every day and getting older and dealing with bullshit. I'm ready to go. Like seriously, I've done all the stuff I wanted to do. Homer wrote this 2,400 years ago. The gods envy us. They envy us because we're immortal. Because any moment may be your last. Everything is more beautiful because we're doomed. You will never be lovelier than you are now. We will never be here again. He said this idea that we are fallen misses the point completely. If it is the flaws that create beauty,
Oh
Francis
wow.
Bacon.
It's so
Yeah,
stupid. It's like we're not denying the beauty and flaws as Orthodox Christians. It's but to act as if sin is beautiful, that's the issue here. And it's not. Is death beautiful? And in some ways it is, but not in the sense that it's the cause of it is not beauty. This is a disobedience. This is a going against. Uh, you know, everything we were given by God. That there's this paradise, right? And then man wants to create his own paradise because he doesn't want God anymore. It's just that become God without God. It's the same old satanic trick, man. And it's just missing the point. He doesn't get it. And why doesn't he get it? Because he's a secular idiot, dude. Like what can you say? Like they never get it.
yeah. Sorry, and I missed that was where that was Pinoid writing that part. So he's basically saying like it's the quirks, it's the problems, it's the issue. Humanity is beautiful. It isn't a fallen creature. The need to fit into society so we can cooperate is about knocking off the rough edges of a
You
masterpiece.
see, with Pinoy, his whole worldview is like, how can I attack Christianity and then make it sound pious? It's like, oh, like the flaws are beautiful. Like, shut up, dude. You're so disingenuous, for one. You're the fakest dude. Everything you say is like fork tongued and like backhanded and rooted in demonic preles. And he he can't see it, of course. And it's like the situation with Pino. I'll tell you this straight up. Pino's going to get to a situation where he's going to be. I'll tell you, at the end of his life, and he's going to go through these toll houses, and he's going to see all the things that he said that was negative about Christ, and he's going to regret it. And you know what? Hopefully God's merciful. But honestly, man, just from going off of it, like I feel like that dude's so prideful that he could be shown that he's wrong about something and double down and just be like, it's a demonic mindset, dude. Like, what else could that be? Like, stupid. It's dumb. The
Well,
dumbest
he's
part
here
about
to
it is thinking you're smart while you're saying stupid shit, Like,
he's here to tell us how stupid we are for being Christians. There we go.
A
here's
word? Yo, listen,
Pinoy,
y'all
the
talking about me
dumbass.
without me being here?
You're the
Y'all
biggest
talking about me
dumbass,
without me
dude.
being here?
You're
Bro,
so
listen,
dumb,
seriously.
dude.
You're like,
Oh,
yo, I was
fallen, a
really
man's
just, yo,
fallen,
look,
dude.
look, you almost, you
You
almost never crossed my
disingenuous
mind, right?
clown, dude. You're so
Yo,
disingenuous.
you
You're so
almost
fake.
never crossed my mind, except like when I got a shit on Ortho Bros. right? And then I'm like, yo, I know this monk
Who
who
are
like on
you?
a regular
Who do you
basis makes
really
an ass
think
out of
you're
himself.
shitting on besides yourself, dude? Because when you shit the bed, right? When your sinful ass goes to hellfire, then you're going to be regretting all the stupid shit you said in this life. That's the reality, Pinoid. Like, come on, dude.
Oh man, yo, look at him. Yo, look at him, Brad. Listen, you know you're over the target when you take it flat, son. Like it is what it is.
Oh, it is what it is. Yeah, hellfire is what it is, dude. How about that, man? Do you think you'll be like, oh, I hope Christ saves me out of hell? When you get there, it's gonna be too late.
Yeah, listen. I don't care.
I don't care. I'm a nihilistic scumbag who likes to fake like I care about anything. You fake like you care, right? When you're talking about how fallen humanity is beautiful, but then in the same
Yeah.
breath, when you're exposed for your nonsense,
Oh,
you
God
act like you
damn,
don't
yo, listen. Thank
care.
you for reading my article. It's
You
appreciated for you reading my
absurdist
article. It
idiot.
really is.
Like, it's so
Yeah,
stupid,
I
dude.
love the. Yo, listen, I like the views, son. I like the views.
Man,
You know
I
what I
didn't
mean?
read your article, man. Neuro read your article. I wouldn't read anything from you, dude. You're an absolute
Oh,
idiot.
word.
No, well,
And see,
so
this is the problem.
hold on. Before we get off the rail, I wanted to ask, like, so you genuinely like Peter Thiel's example, or you think Peter Thiel is like is tripping? I didn't catch that part. Like, so you think he's kind of
Are you
tripping
serious?
on?
I think he's a complete dirtbag, and I think we should throw him into the fucking Marianas Trench.
Well, he's not an Orthodox Christian though, so
Yes, he is.
no, he's not.
No, he's
Absolutely,
not.
he's not.
He was in the
He
article
is.
critiquing orthodoxy himself, dumbass. You're so stupid.
No, he's literally in ortho. Yo, he's a fucking ortho, bro.
No,
He's
he's
literally
not,
fucking
dude.
quoting Orthodox as yo, he is. He's like, yo, yeah, in the Judeo-Christian values, right? Our whole purpose of us is
Orthodoxy
to
isn't
stand here and fucking
Judeo-Christian
like
for one, you
overcome
disingenuous
humanity.
idiot. Like, you're so stupid, dude. Where
Literally,
in
yo,
the
I swear to
world
God,
did
bro.
you get
Like, yo,
orthodoxy as
there's no,
Judeo-Christian?
yo, I know. Listen, your fucking book contains the story of the Jews, but
It's
listen,
not
it didn't
my
come from
book,
Judaism.
bro. It's not my book. I didn't write the book, dude.
Yo, it's the book that you study, dummy.
It's the book you should have studied because you don't know anything about it. But act
I've
like
read
you
the book
do.
3 times cover to cover, dog.
Yeah, you read it cover to cover. You're such a liar, dude. You're a liar, bro.
Why? I was locked the fuck up, Brad.
Oh,
Nothing
I'm
else I was
sure you
allowed to
were
have when
locked
I was
up,
a
you
kid.
absolute animal. You
I am
mutation.
an animal,
You
Brad. Listen,
deserve
ask your
to be
mama about me
locked
being
up,
an
man.
animal, dog.
For your demonic
Yo, man, your
mindset, man. And you'll be
mama was
rotting in
singing Bloodhound
hellfire.
Gang
That's
to
where
me.
you're going.
She was like, yo, you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. Right, legit. Yo, man, listen. Yo, I fucking love the Orthodox motherfuckers, bro. Y'all suck so much.
That's how you sound, bro.
I know.
So wait a second. So what exactly is the problem with the Orthodox theology that like is it the fact you think that it's because we think that man has fallen from like a perfect state of being?
Because he was formerly a Catholic and he still has his like Catholic dumbass mindset, but he wants to reject Catholicism in the same breath. Like that's really what it's rooted in. He's an
Yeah.
atheistic retard, dude.
My God, listen. No, again, like, yo, so here's my problem. Number one, right? I don't think that man's flawed, right? I don't think that that's true, right? In any way, I think man has like
I thought you
a
said
lot
the
of shit
flaws
he
were
has to knock
perfect.
off.
So which one is it? Is the
Yeah,
fall
like
are
the
the
yeah,
flaws perfect?
I said, I never fucking said that man was fucking flawed, right? I'm not. I don't think
Oh,
that
but the
man
flaws
is
are
a
perfect.
fallen creature. I don't think nature is fucking fallen. It's
Yeah,
fucking dumb.
you're fallen
That's
for
just yo.
sure,
That's
dude.
just civilized fucks writing nonsense.
Civilized. Come on, dude.
Man wasn't made to live in a box. It's not
Well,
how it
then why are
works.
you putting God in a box?
Why are you putting baby in the corner? I don't know, bro. Like the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. You don't even know, bro. You don't even know. You put God in a box and act like you have all the answers to why he's wrong or something. It's a mutation.
I have
Man.
all the answers as to why ortho bros are retarded.
Ortho
Because you're
bros.
retarded.
Ortho bros. What is that, man?
You're fucking ortho bro.
What is that? Is that a term
Faggot
that you got off
Protestants,
your,
the who wants to
internet
continue
where
to
you were
fucking believe fucking
propagated that term?
individualism
So now
while
you're like
fucking believing
spitting
that they
out your,
discovered something new.
internet
You're like every
propaganda,
other
man.
conspiracy theorist on the fucking internet, bro. Like, oh, look
Whatever,
what I
dude. You're the
discovered.
one
You
using
know,
the
the
internet
government had
terms like
Project
ortho,
Bluebird.
bro.
Oh man,
Get
yo, you
off
know the
Twitter.
CIA did this fucking op. I discovered that myself. No, you didn't. Somebody told you. Fuck out of here.
Yeah, someone told you to use
You're
the term
rediscovering
ortho,
shit
bro, too.
motherfuckers already figured out.
I like Jewish girls, so Kabbalah good. That's you, bro.
Again, I don't even like Jewish girls. I like
Yeah,
Jewish
okay.
titties. That's nice. But like, but
Exactly,
like,
dude.
fuck, I rarely have ever
It's so
fucked Jewish
brain
chicks.
dead. I like
I
Jewish
haven't
girls,
fucked a
so
Jewish chick
I
in
like
like
the
fucking,
Kabbalah,
I don't know,
and
like, God,
Satan's good guy. Like,
fucking
that's
20
you.
years, 25 years. I haven't had sex with a Jewish bitch. Like 25, 26 years.
Who cares, bro? Why are you even talking like that, bro? Who cares?
Because you said I like Jewish girls. And I said I haven't banged a Jewish bitch in like 25 years.
What's it really rooted in? You're a narcissist and want to get a negative reaction out of somebody? Is that it?
No, because individualism's fucking stupid. Because your
You're
beliefs
being
are fucking dumb.
individualistic, dude. What do you think? How is
I'm not.
Christianity individualistic? What are you talking about?
Yo, listen. First
Define
off, it
your
relies
terms.
on man to hold himself in place.
Whatever, pee hole. You suck, dude.
It's an individualistic, globalized fucking religion. Yo, it's
Blah,
fucking
blah, blah, blah,
trash.
blah, blah. It's slave religion, and it was the the Anglos and all
It's a
the dude. Shut
religion
up.
of the women and the slaves, son. I'm not a woman or a slave.
Yeah, you're a slave to demons. I know that much.
I'm a slave to demons. Oh, look at you again, going back to your nonsense. You don't have any logical thoughts. It's all just fucking religious dogma.
Oh, as if those aren't logical thoughts. What is a logical
They're
thought? That
not logical
Satan is
thoughts.
a good guy? Is that a logical thought?
Satan's not real.
That's exactly what Satan would want you to say.
Oh man, listen, you got me there. You got me there. More logical right there, bro. More logic.
That's logic.
More
If you were
logic,
the
bro.
devil, wouldn't you want people not to think you exist? Duh.
Oh yeah, listen, I feel you, bro. I heard that country song too.
Yeah.
So I have a question though, Pino. Like, do you actually think that do you know that God doesn't exist, or you're just guessing? Like, how could you know that He doesn't exist?
He doesn't even
Yeah, I
believe in
mean, what I look
absolutes,
at.
but he's
Okay,
stating an absolute truth.
should I answer or should this fuckhead answer my own question?
I'm going to answer
Should
for
I
you
answer?
to put you in your gay
Should I
place.
answer, bro? Or should you let this faggot keep talking? Should the ortho bro keep talking for me? Neurojack, you're gonna like step in and motherfucking correct your homie.
He's quiet now.
Alright. Anyway, right? So like listen, I look at the system, right? Like the whole system of Christianity is complete garbage. Right? It's a slave religion meant to enslave man, right? And meant to fucking bring the strong down to the weak's level and uphold the fucking weak. And when you do so, the weak aren't supposed to be in fucking power. That's why
Well,
we all like can't stand tech bros and like billionaires because they're weak, small dick faggots, right? And nobody wants them in charge, right? But Christianity allows it to do so because they're weak and they're meek, right? And you know, what I mean, your fucking book says the meek shall inherit the earth, right? This
well,
is literally what we did. We took the merchants who are the worst of us, the weakest of us, the most garbage of us as humans, right, and put them to fuck like in charge.
well, but here's the thing. Like, if that's the case, then why are they in charge if they're so weak? Obviously, they have a strength that you can't perceive.
Oh no! Because like we outlaw violence and only allowed it to be done by states, right? So like you allow bureaucrats and like fucking governors and like fucking presidents, kings,
I
whatever
mean,
it is,
there's a lot of
like
things
to
that
be
are
able to
illegal
take
that
away
happen
the
anyway, though.
natural rights of man. Yeah, they allowed them to take away the rights of man, right?
I mean, you can still like go and do bad things. So, I mean, you're just gonna have a consequence to it. It doesn't mean that you can't do it.
No. So like men, right, as a whole, have been told that they're supposed to be meek and supposed to allow shit to happen to them, right? So that like they will receive the kingdom of heaven, right? Because that's their reward for behaving themselves and not conducting violence.
But
Literally,
there's
like this
nothing
is a
stopping
slave
you.
religion.
But there's nothing stopping you from going and conducting violence right now if you
No,
wanted
there's
to.
plenty of things stop me from conducting violence right now, right? My inability to fucking stand here and gather enough troops to go do so is an issue,
I
right?
mean, you can
Because
do it. I
all
mean,
men have been told that they're fucking that they're like supposed to be like little cowards and bow down to their fucking overlords and shit.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still an individual on some level, right? I mean, you still have
Oh,
some
listen.
sort of autonomy.
I want
I mean, yeah,
accelerationism because I'm a dumbass. That's you, straight up, dude.
that's you. That's you. That's you, man. It's you. Shut up, Ortho, bro.
Hey,
It's you,
so
man.
tell me something, man. You know,
What up, faggot? Anyway, right? So, like, yeah, man. Like, the problem is like all of us have been like weakened by this fucking garbage ass religion, right? All of our role models are like these weak cucks, right? That are supposed to just stand here and bow down to fucking everybody to fuck else and worship their fucking women. Right? It's literally like, God, you have like, oh, happy wife, happy life. Again, you're just worshiping women. It worships women and slaves. It worships the bottom of humanity.
So okay, so women and slaves are the bottom of humanity.
Yeah,
But aren't you? But aren't you their slave right now, to some degree?
yeah, of course, bro. Yeah. When
So
you
then,
motherfucking
by
make
that
men and women
logic,
equal, men become women's slaves. Socrates said that.
right? So, but by that logic, you are a slave. So why should you be empowered if you're a slave?
Oh man, listen, this is just circular nonsense at that point, right? That's the whole purpose of the system is to take the strong and put them down below the weak. Right? That's why the religion was spread through slaves and women.
So you're saying it's like a mind virus that has taken over the whole earth, essentially?
Yeah, basically.
Um, so like Darwinian. So if everybody's like a Darwinian atheist, it'd make the world better.
Mm. If you had like regular communities like what existed before like 1850, right, where you had, you know, what I mean, like the strong men who were responsible had the authority, yes, like it would be make everything better.
I mean, strong men do evil things sometimes, right?
Yeah. But so weak men always do evil things though.
Okay,
There's
okay.
nothing more
I said
dangerous than
that.
a man with firearms and utopian dreams.
That's an interesting argument, though. So you're saying like essentially like a weak person will always do evil, but a strong man will only sometimes do evil. So you don't. So
Yeah,
you think
because like
that
yo,
that
strong man.
so power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. You don't agree with that, then?
No, it's fucking retarded. Right? Because like when absolute power is like fucking linked to responsibility, like all of a sudden then like oh everything changes. Right? Its responsibility has to match authority. Right? If you have all the responsibility and none of the authority, you're a fucking slave. Right? If you
So
have all
so
the authority and none of the responsibility, you're a tyrant.
do you believe in a strict hierarchy of like the strong? So like whoever the strongest person is, like they're gonna be like they're dictatorial over other people.
I mean, I believe that those who have the ability to be responsible should be responsible and should have authority.
Well, the people in charge right now have some level of responsibility and authority right now. So I mean, what exactly is the determine what exactly is the differentiator between like what we have now and what you want? Like wouldn't you say there's a technology and language that's allowing them to rule? So you want to get rid of both language and technology then?
No, man, listen, I don't know why you make these like logical leaps on some nonsense, right? Getting rid of language and technology, right? Like, no, right? Like, oh, again, what you should have is you should not have like the state enforce, right? Equality among all people, right? It's fucking stupid. Number one. Number two, right? You should not want all people to be the fucking same, right? That's fucking dumb. That's where this universalist like fucking ideology of Christianity has corrupted everybody everywhere. Where it's like, oh man, listen, we are all God's children. We should all be the fucking same. You have the same rights and blah, blah, blah. Right? Fucking dumb. You know what I mean? That just ends up destroying everybody.
So you're against not just equality of outcome, but equality of opportunity, even.
Yes.
Huh. All right.
equality in any way is fucking retarded. There is no such thing as equality. It's fucking stupid. It's a liberal value, right? You know, I mean, it's basically just fucking an 18th century like English thought. It's fucking stupid. There's no such thing as equality. Most men ain't even equal to themselves day to day. Equality's fucking dumb. Women should not have responsibility. They should not be seen as equal. They should not be given authority, right? Short of like them having the ability to actually have that
Well,
responsibility.
but here's the thing,
Men
though.
should
Like,
have
like you're. I don't mean to interrupt you, but aren't you kind of conflating like propaganda with reality? Like most people don't actually believe in equality. It's just a convenient propaganda tool that people use to keep people, in line with lies, specifically women, right? So they tell women what they want to hear to make them weaponized against men, right? So I mean, it's not necessarily that like a bunch of people like will fight and die for the belief. It's just kind of like the path of least resistance, right?
No, I know. People will fight and die for the fucking belief. Number one. Number two, it's codified in law, right? There's a reason why it is women go to court, right? Like women should never be allowed in the court of law. Like fucking that's fucking retarded. They don't have any responsibility, right? So therefore, they can't have any even over themselves.
So okay, great. So okay, great. So let's go down a little logic train here. Okay, and again, like I'm actually not being facetious. Like I'm actually trying to take your logic and take it to its logical conclusion. If you get the system that you want, right, and let's just say that there's like a big strong guy who's bigger, stronger, faster, more money, more whatever than you, right, and he gelds you and takes all your family and women and everything away from you and kills all your children and then makes all your women have his kids instead and makes you his slave and makes you his soldier or just like locks you up and makes you watch all this until you die and keeps you alive, right? Is that justifiable under your conditions or
Yeah. That is 100% justifiable, right? But here's the thing: he has to be responsible for all that too. That's the great equalizer. He has to feed them, clothe them, house them, fucking do all that type of shit, right? Does he want to? No, right? And that's why it is that most motherfuckers don't do that shit throughout history.
right? So, but you're saying that that there's no God that would hold that person accountable for doing all that wicked shit. Like that, right?
Yeah. Nobody's gonna actually hold him accountable for doing that.
And okay, so you believe that hell is a noble lie or something to that effect, and God is a noble lie, essentially.
I mean, hell, I most definitely think hell's a noble lie, right?
And,
Like, what would like?
and
There's
God is a
literally
noble lie,
there's a reason why everybody has always had like some type of form of hell,
right?
right?
Because
Because
it
like you
makes
have to
people
have an
not do it.
explanation of what happens after you die.
Well, it also makes people not do evil shit like we just discussed, right?
Yep.
So, but you think that like if people just did more evil shit, they would naturally come to the conclusion that it comes with too much responsibility, and they'd stop doing it.
No, right? Like motherfuckers will always do evil shit, right? But the thing is this is why it is like most people never like went more than like 20 miles from their fucking house, right? Throughout history, right? Because like yo, the roads were always full of bandits. This is a natural state of man, right? But it's cool though because like you end up having like communities that form and protect each other and take care of each other, and you have tribes and bands, right? And then that actually like solves these type of problems because numbers will win. We're humans, man. We figured this out a long time ago. We're yo, listen, I got it. I got some shit I gotta go take care of. I just saw your thing said that everyone, let's go have a conversation. Like I was down. Then I came in here and heard y'all were over here like gibbering about me. So like yo,
Well,
it's appreciated that
I
I'm
just
living
want,
rent free in niggas' mind.
no, I just wanted to read your article a little bit, yeah, but I got confused where your transcript of Thiel and you began writing, so that's where a little bit of the
Oh yeah,
confusion came from.
listen.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like once like I put two spaces and then began a new paragraph, right? So I said okay, so
Yeah, but
right, what I
I
mean,
was
and then you
driving
put like
I was
so
driving and
deal or whatever.
reading at the same time, so that's my fault. But
Yeah,
yeah,
probably
but
shouldn't
yeah,
do that, bro. Don't do that. It's dangerous. All right, I love y'all, man.
yeah,
I'll let you.
yeah.
Peace.
All right, bye, bye. But yeah, so, but yeah, anyways. So I mean, I just you know, I appreciate his input. I mean, I have a hard time believing that he wants to live in a world where might totally makes right, and there's, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he does believe that. I don't know. I just find it hard to believe. I mean, you know, there's a part of me that definitely feels very wrathful. Like I'm watching these kids like absorb a culture right now in front of me that is very displeasing to my eye, and I would love to see their father come out here and beat their ass, so they would stop engaging in the path that they're engaged in. But you know,
What do you mean?
I don't know if that's exactly the same.
What are you talking about?
You know, like this kind of general culture of like, you know, want to be a gangster and
Oh, okay.
sell drugs and stuff like that. Like they're not there yet, but like, you know, probably in 5 years they'll be, you know, doing the things. You know, so I guess so that's the thing is like under his system, like, you know, if the kids want to go and, you know, sell drugs and do stuff, then, you know, it's okay because
Basically, I guess best I can tell, basically almost a feudalist. Seems to believe in like the old feudal system, like just like, you know, there's kings and there's everybody else, and like fuck it, you know, it's just, it doesn't seem like, it's not very logical, or he doesn't even seem consistent with his own beliefs from what I could tell, but I don't know him, so.
well, you know, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, because in some senses, like, I understand what he's saying, but in another sense, it's like, I mean, like, there is this push to, like, do, feudal, like, to push feudalism again, you know? Like, there's a lot of these tech people again or something, so I'm kind of vein of, he's saying that he wants to do it from a sense of, like, well, people need to be tied to the land because it's healthier for them, but it's like in the same sense he just said, but like I don't believe in morality, so it's like if you don't believe in altruism, why do you care if people, you know, get feudalism or not, right? Like why wouldn't you just say that like you just want to be on top of the trash heap? Yeah. And again, like I'm not just talking shit about, I'm just saying like there's a disconnect in the logic that I'm not fully understanding, you know, in my opinion, you know. So that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, you know.
Right.
So we'll get there eventually.
He reminds me a lot of, like, I can't remember that guy that used to be on Jeff's show with us a lot. He was like lived in
Which
Thailand.
one?
Guy lived in like Thailand or something like that. Can't remember his name now. My brain's shit. Anyway, he was like real loud and abrasive like that, and doesn't like it like that. But he was funny. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, if you're gonna be like that, at least be funny. Like, he wasn't very entertaining. He was just abrasive.
Unseen, are you still there?
Oh, the other guy. No, not Unseen's cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
No, I was just asking if you see. If
I'm not Orthodox or anything, but like, I mean, like, but he's respectful, and I think he's a good guy.
No, I'm just asking if Unseen's still here or not.
Yeah, Unseen. I think he's still here. I don't know. He's on mute, so I don't know. Maybe he stepped away.
Yeah, well, he generally doesn't want to talk to that guy, and I can understand. I mean, they go at each other every time, and I understand, but it's you know, I'm just trying to get. You know, I have my own thing about what I'm trying to get to. It's like, you know, I sent Pinoy this stuff about Eric Weinstein writing this kind of like pro immigration paper for the United Nations, and that's kind of that. Like, I was actually going to try to get into that, but instead we went into this, you know, whole might makes right thing. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, this, you know, it's. You know, I mean, that again, I think to go back to the whole Kabbalah thing, I think you have a little knowledge of the Kabbalah, Chris, if I remember right. Do you know anything about the Kabbalah at all, or?
Yeah, no. I mean,
what do you think
it's been years since I've read any of
about?
it. It's been years since I studied any, or anything like that. But I mean, I have some vague recollection of it. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, besides like the general tree of life, the general principles of it are pretty present in most alchemic systems and stuff like that. That's stuff I really gravitate towards, Gnostic and alchemist stuff. But I mean, it gets when you get into the weeds of Kabbalah, it's real weird. There's a lot of like a lot of it that branches into like just straight up like magic shit and like magical systems, stuff like that. That get kind of like
But what would you? How would you? Can you give me an overview of like what the Kabbalah is and how it's used in your opinion, or like if it's generally good, bad, neutral? Like,
it's Jewish mysticism. I think that a lot of its core principles are more or less rooted in truth, and a lot of the once you get past the core stuff and you start to get the stuff that's built on top of it, it gets you get in the weeds of it, and it's very like what the fuck am I reading? I don't know if I can give you like an overall. I have to like actually read some of it again to refresh my memory. I mean, it's been a while since I've really like looked into that stuff, but it's pretty. It can be pretty out there. I mean, to be honest, like it's not as like it's really strange. Like looking back, like like remember the time period where like Madonna was like saying she was into Kabbalah and stuff like that. Like it's like what the fuck were you saying, bitch? Like what were you into again?
Wait, who are you talking about?
Yoga once, so you think you're a Kabbalist now?
Who are you talking about?
Like, remember when Madonna was like claiming she was a Kabbalist and she suddenly had a British accent and stuff?
Oh yeah.
It's weird.
Well, Ashton Kutcher and some other people like that, Demi Moore, of course, all these people, they were coming out about it too. And
well, that was when
I remember thinking like, who cares? It's not a big deal.
That was when it was really chic to be pro Jew or pro Israel, and also at the same time, but they didn't want to like be too pro like anything that related to Christianity. So people were gravitating towards like pro Kabbalah because that way you could be kind of pro Jewish and not be too Christian-y, too Christian adjacent. I think that's what a lot of that was about, to be honest. Nowadays nobody would be like Kabbalist in media because then you might risk being associated with being pro Israel, and who wants that, right? Unless you're like in the Trump administration, I guess, or like you're a right wing, analog or something, I mean, I'm not anti-Israel, anti-Jews, but like, I mean, like, I don't. It's a weird virtue signal to do. I don't think they were virtue signaling back then too.
Yeah, President Trump. Yeah, I think I don't know, the Kabbalah stuff. I think is like you said. I think once you start, like, it's kind of this thing of like, if you just look at it. When I just look at it like by itself, I don't really have a problem with it. But anytime I see how people have used it, it's like they're immediately using it to like trick people or make narratives or like make propaganda. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, so like.
Well, it's because they don't really understand it.
Did God give us the Kabbalah to go and manipulate people?
I'm really good at like understanding a lot of like these like these things like that. I'll say like it's one that I struggled with. Like you have to. It's very adjacent to Gnostic systems where like you really have to not just read like the subtext. You have to read like 4 or 5 layers deep to like even start scratching the surface of what it's trying to do. There's so much of it is so like it's so occulted underneath all these like layers of like obfuscation, So it's not very. It's not. Well,
I'll give you an example of like how I think the Kabbalah has been used, right, against people, right. So like, and hopefully Unseen will come back. Hopefully this will trigger him to come back. Oh my God, there's a Mason sticker on this van over here. Oh my goodness. Uh-oh, they're watching me, guys. So here's the thing. So like, when I read the Bible, especially the New Testament, like because it's the only part of the Bible I've read like cover to cover more than once, basically. So when I read the New Testament, right, I've always really kind of thought like there's just multiple layers and multiple meanings in that, right?
There is
And
somewhat. I mean, at least if you
when
stick to like the 13 like proper proper gospels that are actually in line with Christ. But like if you go you go into the Paul stuff and everything, you got to kind of like take all the Paul shit out, and you got to take a lot of other stuff out. There's good writings in Paul, but I mean like, I don't think Paul was in line with Christ at all. So.
well, Unseen's definitely going to disagree with you on that. I also disagree. I
just
think that it's like I understand why people would think what I understand why you think that. I think, but that's kind of what I'm getting at is like I think that the Kabbalah was used to basically like take certain presuppositions of Christianity, like everything in the Bible is true, and then try to like twist it to say, well, it's still true, but and just rearrange like the theology in different ways to like confuse people, if that makes sense, right? Like everything's still true, but let's just rearrange everything and make it mean this, and make it mean that, and like.
It depends on how far back you go too. I mean, of course, like a lot of Kabbalistic stuff that we have today, like was technically written, like in say like 1000 AD and so and forward. So we don't really have a lot of the ancient stuff that it draws upon. If you go to like some Jewish apocrypha and stuff like that, and you can start seeing like, or even some of the stuff from Solomon shows the roots of it. I mean, most of it's rooted in like Solomonistic magic kind of stuff. So you really have to like, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff like, I mean, I would ultimately, as a Christian, for any Christian, I would say that, the Old Testament is pretty much like not that important, except for understanding what is important for Christians to understand about the Old Testament is the, I guess, the context of what makes Christianity, what actually like, what is the actual like, because like the answers that you need to understand Christianity at its core of like the whole concept, like the reason why like there is a logic behind like why God would incarnate in a human form to save mankind from himself. In order to get it past that logical conundrum, you have to understand the stuff that's in Kings of Solomon. For example, like, Revelations only makes sense in the context of understanding, like the books of Kings. So, I mean, you really have to understand that stuff to understand really what Christianity really means, what Christ means in itself. So.
What do you mean about the Book of Kings? What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, the Book of Kings, First and Second Kings, is the story of David and Solomon as and the foundation of Israel as a nation and everything. And that in that, I mean, if you're talking about Freemasonry, Gnosticism, everything has its roots in that. The whole concepts of it, like the Templars, the Cathars, everything is all rooted in what was the deal with the first temple and its purpose and stuff like that, right? And the whole Freemasonry, like the Freemasonry thing, in the you mentioned like the Masons a second ago, like the mystery, quote unquote, about that is all rooted in the Freemasonic arc, or the Freemasonic like story or whatever that's gotten into once you actually get past you actually get into it. If you're actually past the 3 degrees and such, it's all rooted in like this in this concept of the initial like I have my name on here as Adept, so that's kind of like a giveaway of that. But like Adept is the the Adept in that sense is Hiram Abiff, and like his torture or whatever is mirrors Christ. And basically, like the story of Kings in the first temple is the creation of the original Antichrist, and then Christ, which necessitated Christ coming, which is why it wasn't really it's because of the laws of balance, because as above so below. So whenever that was done, Christ's coming was necessitated at that point. It's really complicated. I'm trying to like abbreviate it as much as possible, but it's all about like understanding like why was Christ necessary? Why did God need to incarnate in the flesh in order to save mankind from itself, right? Like why or not from himself? Why would God need to do that whenever God makes the rules, right? But God had to create a system where there was a separation between man and God, so that man could come into its own separately from him without his direct influence. Otherwise, we would be no better than the angels, right? So if God didn't create this demiurge type thing, didn't allow this demiurge thing to be created, then there would be no, if God's direct influence was the guiding principle behind all of mankind, then we would be no better than angels, like, because we would be basically just like subservient to his will and his direction. So by putting that separation between God and man, by putting the demiurge as the direct overseer of mankind, it allowed mankind to come into its own separately from God, so that we could be as God. You see, you have to understand, like, why would God create man in the first place? Why would mankind even be something to create in the first place? Why would we even exist? The only thing that really makes sense, if like you try to put yourself in, and if we have to, as that we're created in the image of God, we see, like, in the way that we create children and the way that we exist anyway, we are created to be creators. Our creative impulse is the impulse of God. Like, the only way for us, if we were directly influenced and directly guided by God's hand directly, how would it be any different from an angel or something else that was created for these specific purposes? There had to be, it's the same that you see it in the scientific method. You have to have the control and the, you know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be like some separation, like the scientist has to have put some barrier between itself and the experiment in order for the experiment to be pure enough to get real data. Otherwise, the scientist is just basically is influencing everything at every level. We see that, like, the principles of how you cannot observe something directly without influencing it, right? You see that in quantum mechanics. We see that in everything. Mankind there had to be a definitive separation between us and God in order for us to become anything like God himself. For him to create something that could actually be an equal or a something or an analog to himself, if he creates it, it cannot be as he is, because he was not created like that. So he had to create this system where, like, by like this demiurge came about, the demiurge would be the ruler over mankind, and then knowing that the limitations placed upon that would necessitate that at some point it would try to subvert God by creating what was known as the Antichrist, like an anti-savior, and that was in the form of Solomon. And then that's the reason why Solomon, the line of David and Solomon, directly leads to Christ. Christ's birth was at that point, because of the principle of as above so below, was necessitated at that point, and that's why Christ. I mean, this is a spurious kind of, like, just like a wild claim to make, but I personally believe that, like, the place of the skull, Golgotha, as I said, I personally believe that was the same that hill, that even though they have a landmark for it now, but it's not. There's no reason to believe that that's accurate. I mean. But wherever like that, the sacrifice of Christ would take place in the same place, the same that the sacrifice of Hir-Mabith, which was this analogous thing to Solomon, a kind of like a hidden twin of sorts, perhaps. There's so many layers. I researched this for like literally 10 years, like, for creating putting all these pieces together, and I didn't even know what I was researching at the time. I wasn't looking for an answer. This is the answer I came to from adding all the stuff up. And I was really shocked whenever I found that it actually made it make sense to me for the first time, that Christ's whole thing was to not just cancel the creation, the demiurge's creation of the Antichrist, which is a creation intended to subvert God, because the spark that was within man he was trying to extract it so that he would have the same power as God. instead of that happening, like he incarnated within mankind and created the veil, which was ripped whenever Christ's sacrifice was complete. I'm abbreviating this so much. This is something I need to write into a book or something like that. I guess I don't know. I don't know how to write it all out. I've never figured out how to do that. It's so complicated, but it actually makes a great deal of narrative sense. And I think narrative, and that I should explain that, is that narrative, I believe, is kind of a guiding principle behind all history. I think narrative means more than logic, even. Like there's something true about a story that only makes, whenever things make sense from a narrative perspective, we can understand it, and it has to do that. And so much of what we're taught in either Orthodoxy or Protestant Christianity or whatever does not make sense. They all take this magic leap of like, and there's always this part where it's like, well, there's all these things like God was like this for all these years, and then he just changed his mind. He's like this now. And like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would God need to incarnate himself into the form of a man to save mankind from his own punishment, for the creation of sin, right? He creates sin. He creates this system where mankind almost cannot not be sinful, and then necessitates that he has to be born in the flesh of mankind so he can sacrifice himself to save all mankind. Well, he could have done it for the first place. There's no reason for that to exist if there isn't a intermediary in place that was intentionally part of the fabric of the whole thing in the first place. It was all meant to flow from one point to the next. It all actually makes sense that like at Christ's sacrifice is where we actually had access to the true God. And that's the reason why Christ means something, I believe. Now, I'm not saying that these things are absolutely true. I'm saying that these are things that, I've come to believe over time, through a lot of really in-depth research. So,
Unseen, Chris is a heretic. Get him.
Yeah, get me.
Burn him at the stake now, immediately.
What's up, Unseen? By the way, as I was saying before, I don't know if you heard me, but I was saying I think you're a very good faith, and I think you're a good interlocutor in that sense. So.
Yeah, he'll be back in a second, I think.
Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm here. But I try to be sincere and have good faith in conversations. Now with Pinoid, sometimes, he's quite disrespectful. So I feel like I got to meet him on that level sometimes, but maybe I shouldn't.
Well, I mean, you can take the higher road, but I understand. I've been there. I know how it's like. Especially on streams, man. I know what it's like, dude. So don't sweat it. I mean, like,
before me and Unseen, before me and Chris met you, Unseen, me and him were like I mean, we definitely, you saw me and him like go at people really hard.
Yeah,
like we were swinging wild at a bunch of people
yeah,
for
I've definitely gone after more than my share of people, like, with some some cutting barb type shit, just trying to cut them down with a wit kind of thing. I've definitely done that kind of shit before too. I mean, it's just about there's a balance. I mean, at times it gets exhausting for me to listen to it sometimes, but it's not like, it's nothing against you or anything. It's just like, but he was the problem, not you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I was on I went on TikTok last night, which I'm about to get banned off for like the third time, by the way, because my videos are just too, they're not that bad, but I guess it's like certain words get flagged on there. So like if you say like the word hate or something, like the word hate gets flagged, or
TikTok, like I said,
I don't know exactly what it is, but like just the word hate or you just got to be really careful. Like, it's way worse than YouTube, I think. But I was on there, and I found this panel that was talking about race and stuff, and it was a pretty good panel, honestly. Like, it was actually surprising. And we were all talking about it, and so you have these people coming on there saying white people did all the wrong things, and most of the panel were all pretty level-headed, but some of them were kind of a little atheistic, trying to do the historical facts stuff against these black nationalist types who are white people are doing all the wrong things, blah blah. But but I get more animated in those kind of debates because a lot of the times people are saying things that aren't absurd, and then like with Pinoid, like Pinoid's so absurd. Like I'm not saying this to insult him, but it's like it's so hyperbolic. Like if he's actually serious that he wants to live in a world where he'll be enslaved and
Well,
whatever, like I
he's
mean,
disingenuous, man.
it's kind
You
of
can
like
hear
I don't
him
even know
kind
how
of
to get mad at it.
smiling through his teeth, dude.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't know how if he's just disingenuous or if he really is that cynical. It could be both things.
maybe so. This is a big point I always talk about is like the root of the revolution of the modern age is nihilism. And me and him have talked about absolute truth in the past, I asked him if there's any such thing as absolute truth, and he said, no, there's no such thing as absolute truth. And I asked him, I said, is that an absolute truth? So it's like,
Well, and it's like when you say there's no absolute truth. Number one, you're denying God. Number two, you're denying yourself. So it's like then
it's a
there's nothing.
contradiction. That's the
Yeah.
funniest thing ever. I love that about the atheistic mindset because really, any atheist, once you press them, they quickly become agnostics. Which
Well,
is basically saying I.
no, that's true. You have to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge some sort of metaphysics or unseen whatever to even have a conversation because language itself implies something above and outside of yourself, right? So I mean, it's like
Right.
it's insane, right? And this is kind of why like so like last night this black lady was like she wasn't even black, she's like half black or something, and she's like over here saying like she literally thinks that like Trump and Republicans are going to go and like round up blacks and like enslave them or something. And I was like, hold on a second, you actually believe that? And she's like, oh yes, looking at the panels and looking at the media. I was like, no. Like, you really do believe that? And she knows she's caught, right? And I just started laughing my ass off. I was like, you're not serious, right? Like what do you have? Like, what is your motive of coming on the internet and telling people that you think that white people are wanting to go and enslave black people and put you guys in chains? I mean, it's like it's so absurd, right?
Well, it's
And
slander,
that's the
right?
thing is like, yeah, it's total insanity.
Well, it's slander for one, and it's rooted in the us versus them mentality. And it's never serious because if people were honest and with the truth, they wouldn't need to resort to absurdism to make their points. You can make a valid point without slandering someone or lying about whatever it is their position is. you know
Well, and similarly with Pinoid, like he's saying that like we're conspiracy theorists and stuff, and like I can understand that perspective. Like Christianity is kind of like conspiratorially minded in it, in a sense. You could say that, but then it's like okay, but then at the same breath, he's like Christianity is this plan to like make everybody have a mind virus and make them all stupid so
oh,
the weak
so
can
he's a
control the
conspiracy theorist then.
right. So he's using Christian ideology and theology to make his argument while simultaneously trying to
Well,
negate it.
the,
So
the
it's like,
joke of it all is Christianity isn't actually conspiratorial, right? It's actually conspiracies themselves. I feel like, especially like New World Order and these type of things, like what a lot of people would consider to be a conspiracy, was developed by the Anti-Defamation League and like the different Zionist organizations to take away from prophetic language that has been accepted by Christians for 2,000 years, right? There's a reason why you can't say certain passages from Revelation on a website like Twitter or even on YouTube, right? Because the Anti-Defamation League, and that they're worried that people might figure out that prophetically speaking, they're fulfilling prophecy of the Antichrist, right? And they want to make it into like a race thing or conspiracy. It's not conspiratorial. The reality is that we live. The truth is stranger than fiction, and just because man it doesn't fit in his perfect factoid brain uh, it seems to be unplausible or something like that, for the mind of modern man. But I mean, it's really not. It's reality. That's the truth of it. And unfortunately, we just don't know what reality is anymore. So
Well, it's kind of like this too. Like think about it like this, right? I think that China could have easily become a Christian place because of Taoism, right? But what happened instead, right? You had all these internal fights. The Jays and the British and all these other people came in and imported opium and
well, there is
accelerated,
a
these
in
tribal
Shanghai
wars
and
and stuff
different
like this,
places in
right?
China.
You
Not to
know,
interrupt you, but in different places in China, there is an acceptance of Orthodox Christianity. And their translations of the Bible, when it says in the beginning God created, what is it? Is it in the beginning was the word, or in the beginning was the logos? They have it translated in the beginning was the Tao, you know, in their Chinese Bibles.
right?
And so there is a movement that, these Taoists have accepted Christianity because they realize that all the things that Lao Tzu was talking about are fulfilled in John's words. So yeah.
No, well, but that's my point. Is like I think that that's kind of where people don't understand, like when you really look at it, why did they make China communist? I think it's because China was probably on the verge of becoming Christian. That's my personal belief. But like I think that same thing with Russia. Like, why do they have to take down Russia? Because
It was
how
a
are you going to sell this
communist. I
global
mean, it was
homo
a,
to a bunch of Christians? You're not going to sell it.
Russia was Orthodox, right? Anything that has the potential of orthodoxy sort of being the chief movement. Communism views itself as a religious system that supplants and disposes all other religious systems. It has to, and it's rooted in these satanic philosophers, all of it. Hegel and Marx and all these guys that clearly you read their writings, they're talking about Satan and worshiping Satan and why so
I don't
it's a
know.
political system based in atheism
But certainly Hegel's outcome.
that has to attack Christianity. It's just a natural response, you know, which it's prophetic as well. It's the world hates God. The world hates responsibility. The world hates anything, spiritual in a sense that doesn't align with their, idealistic causes. I don't know.
I mean, I know what you're saying. Like there, I don't disagree with the outcome of it. I don't necessarily think Hegel was trying to do that, but he ended up doing that anyway. I mean, like it just like I think Hegel was a Christian after all. I mean, but he certainly like fell off the path, I guess. But I'm not a fan of Hegel, but I will defend, like, I think his intentions weren't necessarily bad, but it ended up being
Well, a
like,
lot of times, the road to hell is
oh
paved
yeah,
with good
no,
intentions,
I
right?
agree completely. But so I think it's important to note the intention behind it. Well, what exactly is it about Orthodox Christianity that you find to be like the truest way? I'm just curious.
Okay, I'll put it this way. There's there's teachings on spiritual deception in all traditions, but
Yeah.
none so thoroughly refined as that of Orthodox Christian patristic texts from the ascetic monks. And I believe that when you look at their doctrines on or understanding on spiritual deception, it makes sense what we're experiencing in the world from the viewpoint of these ascetic monks. uh we're talking about demons appearing in the form of angels,
Yeah.
or entities from another planet, and all this stuff, and giving men certain knowledge, occult wisdom, which is rooted in alchemy, which developed into science. And it just sort of gives an explanation of where the modern world is at, how it developed, Um, and if you go to somebody like Saint Justin Martyr, right? This was a philosophy student who studied under Plato and studied Socrates and all the great philosophers in Greece, and he came to the understanding that orthodoxy was the superior philosophy, that logos was no longer like some mental concept to understand in the mind. It was a person to know and get to know in your heart through lived experience. So it didn't sort of separate man from reason and soul and all these things that and compartmentalize these things and dissect these things in over logical ways. It's not that it's illogical, it's like meta logical or something. It's
I mean,
over.
I agree with all those aspects of orthodoxy. I find I get hung up on the reliance on a lot of Catholic tropes, liturgy and ritual. That's the reason I end up I always pull away from it. But I think there's a lot of good theology in orthodoxy. I just don't think that.
What do you know about the roots of the liturgy? This was kind of interesting because I'm a monk, and I participate in the liturgy every Sunday, and
I don't think there's
mass,
anything
and
wrong with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think the reliance on it is perhaps over.
well, here's something to think about. So when God sort of came and gave the doctrine on how the Jews were to worship under Moses and Aaron, right? There was a priesthood, correct? And like this priesthood, there was a very strategic and organized way of worshiping God. And it wasn't to control necessarily people. That's just like a misconception of the modern age through the atheistic mind, I believe. It sees everything as sort of this control thing. But it wasn't about controlling people. It was about, sort of forming people's souls properly. That's really what it was about. Because man goes astray, and, so there was order and a hierarchy about the way that worship was conducted. Uh, and there was a promise
Well,
made that there would be a new priesthood.
wouldn't you kind of say that it's kind of like the fact that like you guys realize that we're in a battle and we're in a war, and that like if you don't want to get like infiltrated by the enemy, you have to kind of like build up your defenses and make a soul resistant to
Well,
like
I don't
temptation
know.
and stuff like that. And again, like the way I would put it is like how you're talking about like we get tempted with like knowledge and secrets and sin and all these things, and so like the idea is to like defend against that so we can get closer to God. Is
Which
that
was the
correct?
purpose
Or
of the structure of the hierarchy of the church. That was the purpose of it. And then this didn't start with men, surprisingly. This started with God, who told men to do this. And there's a synergy there. So it's like God intended a hierarchy to be formed for the purpose of worship. And we get to Christ in the New Testament, and he sends out his 12 apostles to baptize and give the sacraments to men. And Saint James, which is called the brother of Christ, or the cousin, really it's his cousin, but in ancient times brother and cousin meant the same thing. He was the first to establish the liturgy of the church. And liturgical worship is actually mentioned in Revelation. It breaks down everything that you read in Revelations. There you'll see in the church, incense and candles and hymns and all these things. These are like liturgical prefigurations of how the church functioned and was to function in the future and in heaven. So there's a and there's Saint Ignatius, who's directly taught by Peter. He's directly a student of Saint John, who wrote Revelation, and he says, follow the bishop as you would follow Christ. So, and why though? Because if it was just a sort of free for all, there'd be no structure there, and people would bring in doctrines antithetical to what was preached by Christ and the one true faith. And there's only one church. There's no confusion. What led to confusion was this splintering of groups where people can claim to be Christians, and they made their own ideas and went away from the original teachings of the 12, the apostles in Christ. And so now in our modern mind we see this and we say, well, why is the liturgy so important? Well, because it was important to the 12 and to those that they taught. So if we want to be true to what Christ preached to his apostles and they preached to their students and so forth and so on, we should follow that way, not just our own ways, because these were men that were indwelt with the Holy Spirit, and you know that's the way I see it. I trust them, and I try to crucify my mind, because that's if I think that all my thoughts are more important than those of the saints, then I'm experiencing some form of pride. So I crucify my mind, and it's done nothing but bring joy into my life. And it's not that I don't think for myself. I do think for myself, and I examine things, but some things are beyond me, and I accept
Right.
that.
Well, I think I see nothing wrong with that. By the way, I mean, like what you were saying there. I mean, I come across it. I mean, because I don't think that any of like my ideas or anything are really my ideas. I really believe that I in doing the research I've done, I find it to be a form of, I guess divine revelation. I guess I mean, maybe it is perhaps egotistical of me to think that like I could have figured out something that I don't think I'm the first to figure it out. First of all, I think there's plenty of other people that have. I just think that I think a lot of things that in today's society have obscured and obfuscated a lot of things that were hidden by people by man. I think a lot of things were intentionally hidden by man for the purposes of subverting God's will and subverting in order to control people more effectively. Basically, because religion has always been a primary method of control for any kind
No,
of.
it's true. I would agree with you, but I would say that there's a mean between extremes with this. It's like, yes, have men used Christianity and religion to subvert and control people? Yes, but this was happening all the way at the very beginning of the establishment of the church.
I
You have
agree, and
John talking about antichrists, many
the reason
amongst them,
the
right?
reason the reason why, I mean, like my main source for most of my stuff is the Apostle John. I think
Right.
the Apostle John is the Apostle John's letters and his gospel are the primary sources of that I go by. Um, I started researching just out of curiosity, mostly because like I came with the crisis of faith that I was having trouble like reconciling my basic questions about what was why would God need to do these things to save mankind, right? You see the questions that I ran into, like why does God need to do this at this point in history to save mankind from himself? He's the only one that makes these rules, so why would he need to do this? And so I started researching because of that, because like I could not escape the fact that I did believe that Christianity, like Christ, at very least, if not necessarily the Jewish conception of it, but the what Christ presents and the problem that Christ presented for me was that I could not escape the fact that I knew that it was true on some like deep soul level, something that I could not escape no matter how hard I tried. And I tried to like be an atheist. I tried to be an agnostic. I tried to be those kind of things because like because of the fact that like the logical incongruence was too great for my brain to accept fully, and
Right.
and so I went on a spiritual journey trying to figure out like what it was that I even thought was true about these things, and then trying to reconcile them within myself and reconcile within like I was seeking God in all of this. I was seeking His face, His like because like I from a very young age. I mean, I my the moment that I consider my the dawn of like salvation for me, the moment I accepted Christ was whenever I was a child, and I just knew it was true, kind of thing. You know, I understood it in that moment, and it stuck out. And like, I don't have memories from when I was 4, except for this one memory, right? I remember understanding that God was real, and that Christ, and who he was, and like it's like the clearest memory I have. I remember it better than I remember yesterday.
Well, why does he say you have to be like little children, right?
Exactly, right. I mean, like, it is about that, but it's also about understanding things through, like, to me, for me. And I'm not saying, like, I don't prescribe or can insist that my beliefs are what everyone else needs to believe. I'm just saying that what I came to in my own self was that when I started researching all these things, I looked into like the Rosicrucians and the Gnostics, the Cathars, and all these various sects and everything all this time. And I ultimately, and like my family, I would not, I'll tell you this, I wouldn't be here today. My life would not exist if not for the Catholic Church. Okay. Because my grandmother, my great grandmother were born in Spain. And my great grandfather was a rebel against Franco's rebellion against at the time after the monarchy had fallen, and a kind of a socialist government had taken its place. And then Franco's fascist state came in. My great grandfather was a rebel against that. He was executed in a firing line. And he hid my great grandmother and grandmother in a convent, and she survived because the Catholic Church protected her. So, I mean, I owe a debt to the Catholic Church, and yet at the same time, I also believe that the Catholic Church as an institution, as a overall. Hold on, my grandmother's calling me. Hold 1 second. Sorry about that. So like, I owe a great debt in my heart, in my life, to the existence of the Catholic Church. So I don't want to disparage them too much. And I believe there are a great number of Catholics that have a pure and a good, and I don't believe that you need to understand these things in order to be a Christian, by the way. I don't think that the things that they were important for me to understand. They're not important for most people to understand. And I think Christ teaches that as well. Like when he talks about, like, you know, coming as a child and stuff like that, the understanding the intricacies is not important for most people. To be a Christian, to achieve salvation, is not important. Now, for a lot of the people that are like kind of like intellectual Christians and stuff like that take this intellectualist stance, stuff like that, I think that they're far off base.
Like you need to have all the correct dogmas and line and all this stuff.
You don't need to understand all that, really. I mean,
really, I don't think so either. But
childlike faith in Christ is enough.
Right, a simplicity. There's 1,000 angels.
Absolutely.
Well, I would say this though, like back to this priesthood thing, because I think that if you look at the, because what you're right about the institutional aspect, but the way when Christ is talking about his church, he's talking about a physical church, and he's talking about the organism, those that are joined to his body. So there's the church triumphant, which are the church in heaven, and then there's the church on earth, who are the church militant, right? And the organizational aspects of the church, because we're in a fallen world, is going to deal with the issues that fallen man deals with. So you're going to have, people that are going to use the faith to acquire worldly goods and, brainwash people and do awful things. And you're going to have Freemasonry infiltrating the institution. And, you're going to have you're going to have heretics sort of pop up there, which that was understood from the beginning. Right. But see, what I think happens is people see that, and then they go to the extreme and say, well, then obviously Christ and his church are a lie, or something like that. And it's like that. No, that's an extreme. There's a mean between extremes. Just because there's an institution of the church that has subverted the teachings of Christ doesn't mean that there's not those that truly hold true to the faith. Right.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
All right. Now, on the priesthood. No, back to this earthly and eternal. So that's really what it is. Like it's two distinguishing factors. And I want to read you this, just a small portion of this. So a major theme of the book of Hebrews is the contrast between the earthly or Levitical priesthood and the eternal priesthood of Melchizedek, which is fulfilled in Christ. The
Which is
Levitical priesthood.
I'm very well versed in. So you're actually let me stop you right there. I have to go get my daughter. She
Okay, yeah.
So go ahead and talk to Nurjek for a minute. I'll be right back, guys.
Sorry. All right, we'll talk again, man.
Yeah, no, we'll talk again. I mean, I'll be right back. I just have to go. I have a 2-year-old that's just got from a nap, so I can
understandable, brother. Yeah. Yeah, well,
So it's just us now. I guess we need to manufacture a fight, so we keep our one viewer here. Okay, you're a punk.
Ignatius, Antioch. Okay, now we're gonna go to Bishop. Okay, this is what Ignatius says to the one viewer. I just want to tell him this. Maybe it'll get through to him. Okay, so there's a structure, and like I think this is so important for people to realize about Revelation. What's mentioned in Revelation is 7 churches, right? It's Smyrna, Thyatira, Ephesus, Sardis, and there's 7 of them that are mentioned. Antioch, and this is what Ignatius of Antioch says about this. Bishop. Okay, so here we go. The church fathers. It's an epistle to the submit. Okay, so the epistle of Ignatius to the Sumerians, maybe that's it. Sumerian, I don't know how to say it. He says, "Greetings, Ignatius, who is called Theophorus, to the church of God, the Father, and of the beloved Jesus Christ, which is through mercy obtained every good kind of gift, which is fulfilled with faith and love, is deficient in no gift, most worthy of God, adorned with holiness, and the church which is at Smyrna, in Asia, wishes abundance of happiness through the immaculate Spirit and Word of God." He says, thanks to God for your faith. I glorify God, even Jesus Christ, who had given you such wisdom. For I had observed that you are perfect in an immovable faith, and as if you were nailed to the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, both in flesh and in spirit. And we are established in love through the blood of Christ. Being fully persuaded with respect to our Lord, that he was truly of the seed of David, according to the flesh. Romans 1 and 3, and the Son of God according to the will and power of God, that he was truly born of a virgin and baptized by John, in order that all righteousness might be fulfilled. Matthew 3 and 15 by him, and was truly under Pontius Pilate and Herod the Tetrarch, nailed to the cross for us in flesh. Of this fruit we are by his divinely blessed passion, that he might set up a standard. This is Isaiah 5 and 26, Isaiah 49 and 22. For all ages, through his resurrection, to all his holy and faithful followers, whether among Jews or Gentiles, in the one body of his church. Christ's true passion. Now he suffered all these things for our sakes, that we might be saved, and he surely, truly, even as he truly raised up himself, not as certain unbelievers maintain, that he only seemed to suffer as they themselves only seemed to be Christians. And as they believe, so shall it happen unto them, when they shall be devastated of their bodies and be mere evil spirits. Chapter 3, Christ was possessed of a body after his resurrection. For I know that after his resurrection also he was still possessed of body. I believe that he is now, for when, for instance, he came to those who were with Peter, and he said to them, Lay hold Handle me and see that I am not an incorporeal spirit. And immediately they touched him and believed, being convinced both by his flesh and spirit. For this cause also they despised death, or found its conquerors. And after his resurrection he ate and drank with them, as being possessed of flesh, although spiritually he was united to the Father. So this is actually a refutation against the Docetist Gnostics, who said that Christ was just a spirit body, just spirit. He wasn't a body, and that he really didn't die on the cross. There was somebody else who died there. It was like Simon of Cyrene or something. So he says, chapter 4, beware of these heretics. And I believe he's talking about the Docetists here. He says, I give you these instructions, beloved, assure that you also hold the same opinions as I do. But I guard you beforehand from these beasts in the shape of men, whom you must not only not receive, but if it be possible, not even meet with. Only you pray to God for them, if by any means they may be brought to repentance, which, however, will be very difficult. Yet Jesus Christ, who is our true life, has the power of effecting this. But even these things were done by our Lord only in appearance, and I am also in appearance bound. And why have I also surrendered myself to death, to fire, to sword, to wild beasts? But in fact, he who is near to the sword is near to God. He that is among the wild beasts is in the company with God, provided only he be so in the name of Jesus Christ. I undergo all these things, that I may suffer together with him, which is Romans 8 and 17, who has become perfect man, inwardly strengthening me. Philippians 4 and 13. He goes on to say the dangers of errors. Some ignorantly deny him, or rather have been denied by him, being the advocates of death, or rather than of truth. These persons neither have the prophets persuaded, nor the law of Moses, nor the gospel, even to this day, nor the sufferings we have individually endured, for they think also the same things regarding us. For what does anyone profit me if he commends me, but blasphemes my Lord, not confessing that he was truly possessed of a body? But he who does not acknowledge this has in fact altogether denied him. Being enveloped in death, I have not, however, thought good to write the names of such persons, inasmuch as they are unbelievers. Yea, for far be it for me to make any mention of them, until they repent and return to a true belief in Christ's passion, which is our resurrection. He goes on, he says, let no man deceive himself. Before the things which are in heaven and the glorious angels and the rulers, both visible and invisible, if they believe not in the blood of Christ, shall in consequence incur condemnation. Quote, he that is able to receive it, let him receive it. Matthew 19 and 12. Let not high place puff up any one up, for what that which is all is faith and love, to which nothing is to be referred, but consider those who are of a different opinion with respect to the grace of Christ, which has come to us, how opposed they are to the will of God. They have no regard for love, no care for the widow or the orphan or the oppressed, of the bond or of the free, of the hungry or the thirsty. Let us stand aloof from such heretics. They abstain from the Eucharist and from prayer, because they confess that not the Eucharist to be the flesh of our Savior Jesus Christ, which suffered for our sins and which the Father of his goodness raised up again. Those, therefore, who speak against this gift to God incur death in the midst of their disputes. But it were better for them to treat it with respect, that they might also rise again. It is fitting, therefore, you should keep aloof from such persons, and not to speak of them either in private or in public, but to give heed to the prophets, and above all to the gospel, in which the passion of Christ has been revealed to us, and the resurrection has been fully proved. But avoid all divisions as the beginning of evils. Let nothing be done without the bishop. See that you all follow the bishop, even as Jesus Christ does follow the Father, and the presbyter as would the apostles, and reverence the deacons as being the institution of God. Let no man do anything connected with the church without the bishop. Let that be deemed a proper Eucharist, which is administered either by the bishop or by one whom he entrusts. Wherever the bishop shall appear, there let the multitude of the people also be, even as wherever Jesus Christ is, there is the Catholic Church. He means universal there. That's the Catholic is actually a Greek word. Believe it or not, some think it's Latin, but it's not. It is not lawful without the bishop either to baptize or to celebrate a love feast, but whatsoever he shall approve of, that is also pleasing to God, so that everything may be done by secure and valid. Honor the bishop. Moreover, it is accordance with reason that we should return to soberness of conduct, and while yet we have the opportunity, exercise repentance towards God. It is well to reverence both God and the bishop. He who honors the bishop has been honored by God. He who does anything without the knowledge of the bishop does in reality serve the devil. Let all things then abound to you through grace, for you are worthy. You have refreshed me in all things, and Jesus Christ shall refresh you. You have loved me when absent as well as when present. May God recompense you, for whose sake, while you endure all things, you shall attain unto him. Acknowledgement of their kindness. You have done well in receiving Philo and Reus Agathopus, as servants of Christ our God, who have followed me for the sake of God, who give thanks to the Lord in your behalf, because you have in every way refreshed them. None of these things shall be lost to you. May my spirit be with you, for my bonds which have not despised or even been ashamed of, nor shall Jesus Christ, our perfect hope, be ashamed of you. Request to send a message to Antioch. Your prayer has been reached to the church, which is at Antioch in Syria. Coming from that place bound with chains not acceptable to God, I salute you. I who am not worthy to be styled from thence, inasmuch as I am the least of them. Nevertheless, according to the will of God, I have been thought worthy of this honor. Not that I have any sense of having deserved it, but by the grace of God, which wish I may be perfectly given to him, that through me prayers I may obtain to God, in order thereof that your work may be completed both on earth and in heaven. It is fitting for the honor of God and your church should elect some worthy delegate, so that he sojourning into Syria may congratulate them that they are now at peace, and are restored to their proper greatness, and that their proper constitution has been reestablished among them. It seems then to me as becoming thing that you should send some one of your numbers with an epistle, so that in company with them he may rejoice over the tranquility which according to the will of God they have obtained, because that through your prayers they have now perfected the arbor as persons who are perfect. You should also aim at those things which are perfect. For when you are desirous to do well, God is already ready to assist you. But yeah, just reading that, I haven't read that in a long time.
Yeah,
But,
I recognize it, but I can't place it. What is it from exactly?
so that's Saint Ignatius of Antioch, and
Yeah. Okay, that's definitely right. Yeah, I recognize.
right.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, although I do, I give you, I only bone really I pick with you there is that it's a really common thing to say that, like, to say that when they say heretics, what baby? Yeah, I'm sorry, she's very loud.
That's fine, man.
So when they say heretics, they automatically mean like all Gnostics. I think there was many different sects of Gnostics. The Gnostic path that I tend to, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't really consider myself a Gnostic per se. But the Gnostic path, I guess, that I would follow would not be the ones. There were many different ones, and like the Gnostic was kind of a broad term that covered any kind of person that had an alternative, like outside of the and Ignatius especially was especially against any kind of Gnosticism. So I just want to say, like, because Paul also refers to, and Paul and some other also refer to Gnostics. I think the second John itself is the Gnostic creation myth, almost word for word, the first chapter of it. I mean,
Well, this is interesting about the Gnostics. They were a part of the early Christian church, the Docetists.
yeah,
And you had the Nicolaitans, and then the
exactly.
Marcionites, these types, Valentinians. Who else did you have? You had a couple, people that sort of took Jewish, uh, mystical understanding, which,
Yeah,
and they sort of blended it in with, Christian teachings, like especially Simon Magus. So,
especially
he taught Simonian Ionology.
which I'm against that too. I think he was one. I mean, there's many different sects, and many of them were very bad. I personally do not believe in the commonly accepted to be the Gnostic principle that the entire world is entirely fallen and irredeemable. I really agree with that. I think if it was irredeemable, then Christ wouldn't have bothered, more or less. Why redeem something that's irredeemable?
Well, what do they say? It's like, there was this lower God, and then Christ came from this higher God, and
the demiurge is, but the demiurge, I think, is a principle that is entirely congruent with Christian principles.
I don't believe so. Not this lower God concept, and
it's
I'm not to go against what you're
it's
saying.
Essentially a demon. It's essentially a demon, but a demon or a daemon. You look at the genesis of the word demon.
Right, daemon, which it's good. Socrates talks about his daemon, all that. Yeah, but I guess like there's a great book called Orthodox Dogmatic Theology. I believe that's what it's called. And it's by Saint Justin Popovic. He's like the last great saint out of the Serbian church. And he wrote this, and he talks about almost every sect of Gnosticism. And then, of course, you have the, Irenaeus rather, on, against heretics, where he names all the list of Gnostics and their teachings, and then he sort of refutes them. And then you got Saint John of Damascus in the 700s. He does a thorough refutation from an Orthodox perspective. And, if I was a Gnostic, I would look, because, I did, study the Kabbalah. I was under, a Kabbalah teacher at one time. And, they pushed this concept of dualism, that, good and evil are equal opposing forces. Well, I looked at the Orthodox doctrine on this, and like essence, energy distinction, like, St. Gregory Palamas and all this stuff. And I came to the realization that evil isn't an equal opposing force to good and to God. That God is superior to evil and good is superior to evil, and that evil isn't really any substance. It's the perversion of God's energies, or like energy itself.
I completely agree with darkness. I completely agree with that, because in the same sense that light is superior to darkness.
Right. When you turn on your bedroom light, it doesn't have to fight with the darkness. You can't
understand light without darkness. You know what I mean?
Well,
one still comes out of the other, regardless of the fact that light is superior. I do think that light is superior. That the good.
Well, when you put it on equal opposing forces, though, then there's this justification for evil, right?
I don't agree with strict dualism, and when in the very minor amount of writings we have from the Cathars, I don't think that they did either. But I mean, that is a subjective interpretation, though. So, to be fair, it's my interpretation of my research. I think the Cathars had a very close, had the closest thing to a true competitor to the Catholics, which is why they were so insistent upon wiping them out. But
well, you know what happened in 1054 with the Catholics, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the Great Schism, they 4 out of the 5 sees disagreed with the one.
Yeah.
And they pushed this idea of the Pope as being, the head of the church. But prior to this, this understanding that the Pope was just a metropolitan, and he was considered, it was considered an honorary title because Rome was the imperial capital. All right. Well, they took that, and they have like texts like the Isidorian Decretals, and they sort of developed this idea of papal infallibility, conflating supremacy and primacy and all these other terms to sort of come up with this worldly institutional view of the church. It sort of eliminates the idea of a body of Christ and turns it into just like, a kingdom of a man on earth rather than a kingdom of God or something. Well, in doing that, they become obsessed with logic and reason and have to, and then the product, one man sees himself as infallible leads to all men seeing themselves as infallible. That's like the Protestant Reformation, I think. So you know I feel like, when you look at these type of subjects and like in detail, uh you know I think that the Catholic Church, especially with like someone like Pope Innocent III or something, he kind of got caught up in the Kabbalistic, Gnostic Jewish teachings of his time. And you can find manuscripts sort of hidden in the Vatican. They say they're in the Vatican library, where he had manuscripts made that had Kabbalistic material in them.
There's evidence of that all over the church itself, and there is. I mean, granted, we don't have access to the archives, obviously, but there you see it in their architecture. They embedded it into the actual architecture of some of their cathedrals and some of the actual things. It's crazy.
Right. So I would say that, whether people like to hear it or not, I'd say the Roman Catholics are a form of Gnosticism. They're almost like the Nicolaitans. So
They
the
are very
Nicolaitans,
in a sense that I think that's a heresy. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I
right.
I don't think that all the Gnostic teachings, especially the ones that go back, if you look at the more, I think the more pure Gnostic teachings are actually very, very concerned with Christ, and not with like diminishing him, but actually elevating him to an even higher state than a lot of other modern conceptions of religion do.
Well, yeah, I don't know, but I mean, it's a very strange path to take.
Have you read the Sophia of Jesus Christ?
Yes, yeah. Sophiology.
Yeah.
Now, there's a text written by Saint John Maximovich. He's like the last great wonder worker. Well, not the last, but he was a great wonder worker from Russia, and but he moved to America. He wrote a text on sophiology, which I think sophiology is like something that the Templars were pushing, because if you do like an at-bash of like Baphomet, you get Sophia, like in an at-bash
You
cycle.
can, yeah. I mean, I do think Baphomet is much closer to the Demiurge itself, but or what's the Yalda Baoth more like. But I think Yalda Baoth and Baphomet are very similar. But
yeah, as far as
how demons and spiritual entities kind of like evolve and create, because they can't actually have children, so they can't have like they can't have like they can't have progeny, so they kind of evolve in a different sense, so they kind of become different things over time. You see that throughout the scriptures and throughout other things too. I am very spiritually I guess aligned with like the concept of like I do see the demonology as it's been say. I don't agree with anything 100%, but I do see truth in some things, and I do think there's a lot of truth in like what they the whole thing about Solomon and his use of like the Great Seal and stuff like that as a way to control demons, which I think was a heresy. It was one of the first heresies.
Well, that's in the Jewish Encyclopedia, that he used that ring to sort of control Asmodeus or something, and build the Temple of Solomon.
And that's a story that goes back much older than most of the scriptures, as far as we know. So,
I mean, really?
According to some sources, there are sources that deny that go against it. I tend my criteria tends to be like when I find three independent sources that aren't pulling from each other. They're pulling from various things. That's tend to be where I kind of put my. That was the criteria I went with whenever I was researching. Was I found three independent sources saying the same thing, but we're not seemingly pulling from the same exact thing. Is where I would try to like focus my next step.
I think there's truth in it that Solomon sort of gave into working with demons, and
he was
maybe
all of Israel.
I think he did. I think that once Bathsheba got involved, he sort of went against his father, who told him, all the gods of the nation are demons. The Lord created the heavens, and he warned Solomon that by doing this, you would give into the devil in a sense, and I think he did, and that's
and look
unfortunate.
and then you look at the story of the Queen of Sheba, right? You look at Sheba, and I've looked at the etymology of both these words because sometimes the translation is misleading, and the fact that that one word is pulled from one thing and one word is pulled, but bath, the term bath just means place of anyway, in terms of in the most basic sense. Hold on one second, and then Sheba itself is as a really obscure word that doesn't appear anywhere else. And then you look at Bathsheba and the Queen of Sheba and what she's listed as, and people think that she's just a black woman because it says she's very dark. But I think that it's more like a demonic form, right? I mean, like a black, as in a black, a demonic spirit that comes and joins itself to Solomon, right? I mean, does that not make sense? I'm not saying I'm not giving 100% to that. The thing that got me was that there's only two times the term 666 is ever used in the Bible, but Old and New Testament. In any of, and this goes beyond just the canonized scriptures, but also the persuaded figure.
There was a tax to Solomon. Solomon's tax.
Exactly, yeah. The only other time that the number 666 is used is in reference to Solomon and the talents of gold that he was producing. And it says very specifically in Revelation. See, my personal belief is that the book of Revelation is not a prophetic document, but a coded history. And this is a view that's actually been shared by there's a lot of theology.
There's a Kabbalist breakdown of the book of Revelation, which I don't agree with it, but I mean, because I went through that, and and I'm not to interrupt you or anything, but I mean, it's when I looked at the Orthodox teaching on Revelation, I seen it as superior to the Gnostic and the Kabbalistic teaching, and the reason for it is because you have these saints don't need numbers and all these other things, gematria and decoding ciphers out of the scripture. It almost seems like there's a cognitive bias going on there, looking at the text through the lens of 12th century, Isaac Lurie and Kabbalah or something, which is fine. Okay, you can do that.
How else can you interpret Revelation except as essentially an occulted or Gnostic type of document?
It's not. The document itself is in the same spirit that the book of Daniel is.
The book of Daniel is not nearly as cryptic.
Sure, it's not. But Ezekiel. There's another sort of a this Merkaba type thing. It's not quite Kabbalah. It's Merkaba.
Right. I have this personal belief. This is a personal belief that I don't attribute this to anything. But I have this personal belief that the truth is inherently and intrinsically determined it will come out no matter what. And I think the reason, because the problem I came with Revelation, well, okay, if it's a Gnostic coded document that's trying to tell us a hidden true history of the world, hidden true history of the spiritual history of the world.
Well, nothing's hidden with Christ.
Why would the Catholics even include it in the canon? And I came to the best conclusion I could come to, and I'm not saying this is a good enough conclusion, but as the best thing is that no matter what they did, they couldn't escape the fact they knew they had to put it in there, because it does not really point to the same conclusions they come to in terms of what they canonized in the scriptures, but that if they didn't do it, that they would be truly damned. I guess there was a fear of it.
Have you ever read Saint Andrew of Caesarea?
I've heard that name. I can't remember. I mean, I've
so Saint Andrew of Caesarea. He did a commentary on the Book of Revelation, and there's another commentary by an Archbishop of Verkey and Father Seraphim Rose. They did on Apocalypse. Those are the definitive Orthodox texts on Revelation, I would say. And something I'll give you an explanation.
You have links to them. You put the links to the thing.
I'll send it. I'll send all that to you. I'll send all the material I have to you on Revelation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you might find interesting.
Sure, absolutely. I'm always looking for new sources or new things. I to tell people all the time, if you can show me proof that the things I'm coming across are absolutely like the diametrically exposed to the actual scriptures.
I think I can do that. Well, and I'm not trying to be, I guess negative towards you or anything, but I went through the Kabbalah and I studied under a Templar.
This is healthy to me. This is good conversation. This is the kind of thing that's supposed to happen. I mean, if what sharpens iron besides iron, right?
Right. Well, I had studied under a Templar before I became an Orthodox monk. Okay. So
you're a monk. I'm just curious. I'm not disparaging. I'm just like, when you say you're a monk, what do you mean by you're a monk? Like
I live at a monastery.
You live in a monastery. Okay, that's cool. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't know. I've come across you on panels a couple of times, but I don't know you at all. So I don't know anything about your history or anything like that.
So I'm at a monastery in New Jersey called the Abbey of the Holy Name, and I've been taught a monk, and my name is.
I respect that. Like that's a bold choice for
Brother
life.
Macarius. My name is Brother Macarius. But anyways, so with this, I studied the Kabbalah, and I went through that before I got to Orthodoxy. And I came out the other side of it. So I studied the patristic text. And I went to sort of the church's teaching on it, Orthodoxy's teaching on the Book of Revelation and different subjects. I what I found out was that a lot of this stuff had just been backtracked from the 12th century and passed off as if it was older from the 2nd century or even earlier. Now I have the documentation on it. I mean, whether you want to accept it or not, that's up to you. But I could give you that information, right?
Absolutely.
And how I view it and how the church views the Kabbalah and the Kabbalistic interpretations, and then you can compare that with the Orthodox saints' interpretations through the patristic text, and that would be, I would say you'll come out the other side, even if you don't decide that Orthodoxy is true or not. You'll come out of it with a pretty in-depth understanding of the subject.
And Orthodoxy is I have to admit, it's even though I've studied it some, it is something that I have a relative blind spot on compared to a lot of other aspects of Christian, like Catholicism, other things like that. It's something that like I really didn't come across until being in the panel type stuff. That it never really seemed like a particularly relevant or relevant to the current times. It wasn't something that was that widespread anymore. And I mean, I probably know more about Wicca than I do about Orthodox Christianity, to be honest, except for like the basics of it. So like I know I'm more than happy and willing to look at it.
Well, I'm in the Western Rite, so Western Rite Orthodoxy.
Also to keep discussing it, because I find these conversations really fascinating and really interesting. I just so you know, I don't consider this to be an argument or anything like that. I think it's a valuable exchange of ideas. And we were both at the core. I think we can both agree that we're both at the core. We're believers in Christ, and we're people that both believe in Christ's divinity and his power and the power of salvation that He has in our lives. So like we are at the heart of it all. We're both in congruence of the fact that like we both believe in Christ and we are Christians in that sense. So the details of it, the little things of it are important to us, but they're not important in the they're not important in like the grander sense of like salvation, stuff like that. They aren't dependent on us. We are essentially we're brothers in that sense, right? We're like this
not to be antithetical to you, but because I have to hold true to Orthodoxy in the end of the day.
Absolutely,
I have to
get away from you. I wouldn't get away from you in a heartbeat. I just think I find it to be an interesting conversation. If I would make you stumble or something like in your faith or make you doubt it.
No, I mean, it's nothing like that. Now, what I'm going to say is this, is that if, let me put it this way to you. Mm-hmm. If Christ has said there's one faith, one baptism, and one church, mm-hmm. and we were to say, well, there's many different paths to Christ, wouldn't that be making him a liar?
I suppose, but at the same time, I know what you're saying there. I know we're wrong. I'm not saying I don't think that's wrong, but I do think that the core, in the same way I'm saying that I don't think it's important that everyone knows like all of the intricacies of like my particular take on it. The most important things that Christ taught, I do think we're in congruence on. We're in congruence on the words of Christ anyway. We believe that Christ, it's the little things around it and like the purpose of Christ and everything that maybe we disagree on somewhat. But I don't think that changes the path of salvation or anything in the broader sense. Maybe it does for someone like us who is in the weeds on that sort of thing. once that's kind of the danger of getting into that sort of thing. It's like the more you know, the more you get into it, like maybe it does affect us. I don't know, but like I certainly wouldn't have this conversation with somebody if I thought that, like, by me telling you what I believed would somehow, like, disrupt or change what you believe. If that is the truth, that is what you believe God has shown you is the truth. And I'm not trying to be
it's nothing like
like
that.
a
It's
new
just
age,
that,
kind of like trying to be like a new agey, like everybody has their own truth and everything is fine. I don't mean it like that. I mean like but at the core of it, I don't think that if you believe in Buddha the same way you believe in Christ, that's the same thing. Okay, you know what I'm saying like that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that we both believe in the person of Jesus Christ, the personhood of him, and the godhood of him. Right? We both believe in that.
That's true.
Those are that's what I'm talking about. Is in terms of the core of our beliefs are congruent with each other. Now, the specifics in terms of how the churches and the livelihood of all of it is administered and everything like that is where we might disagree. But I don't think that someone like me and someone like you would exist from that perspective of having that core belief in Christ and who he is, if there wasn't a reason for, like, maybe for my beliefs to maybe sharpen yours or your beliefs to sharpen mine. Like, right. These things have to exist. If there are no conflicts in that sort of thing, then why would God even allow it? Even from your particular cosmology's perspective, like, I mean, why would this even exist anyway? Unless I'm just like unless I'm being unknowingly used as a tool for Satan. But considering nothing I'm saying is like contradicting with your belief in Christ and the core tenets of Christianity, I don't see how I could possibly, like, unless something I could say could actually shake you from believing in Christ at all. And
no, you're not going to.
Absolutely.
Look at it this way. Okay, I'll give you an example of something you might find it interesting. So the mark of the beast, right? This is how an Orthodox would understand the mark of the beast. It says it's going to be on the right hand and the forehead, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the right hand represents our actions, and the forehead represents our mind. Okay. So those that accept the mark of the beast on the forehead, their thoughts will be with Antichrist. Okay. And those that accept it on the right hand, their actions will be with Antichrist, but their mind, they can think that they're with Christ. Okay. Right. All right. So this is the deception of the devil, is he'll think that you could say you can have the soul of a Christian, but your actions are directed towards Antichrist. And this is what the ecumenical movement does. It gives this like fake lukewarm understanding that, all paths lead to God, right?
I don't believe
that's an anti-Christian idea. There's one, if our creed says that there's one faith, one Christ, one truth, and God's not the God of confusion, then there's only one path to get to there. No, that's not saying that God won't be merciful to those that truly search and maybe they didn't find. I don't know the decisions of God on that level, right? I can't say where, some that would seem to be inside the church could not make it, right? And those that seem to be outside the church could be joined to the church through extra normative means. But either way, they would be joined to the body of Christ. It's not like they would be not joined to the church because they seem to be out of it. But yeah, that's one of the things that sort of attracted me to Orthodoxy, is this understanding and a discernment on what is of God and what isn't, and and deception, because he says even the elect can be led astray. It's important,
I do agree with that. I mean, by the way, I agree that the elect can be led astray, all sorts of things. I'm not arguing those things. I'm not really arguing at all. I'm just trying to express, like, where I've come from.
I get it.
Because I find Orthodox Christianity, I think there's a lot of deception in the weeds of the Catholic faith, for example. But I think there's many Catholics that will be accepted in the kingdom of heaven.
And just to be clear, sorry, because I think Chris hasn't been around, so he doesn't even know, like, the lore. But Chris, for example, like, you and I battled, I guess you'd say, with a lot of these ortho bros, right? For example, right? Yeah. He's definitely not anything related to those guys, because he says that those people are kind of like wolves in sheep clothing, wearing an Orthodox
I can
facade.
tell. I can tell you, and you know me, Jack. You know, if I thought he was an ortho bro, you know, I'd be fighting him a lot harder. I would be actually fighting him. I think Unseen is a true believer, and I think that he's someone who's approaching this entirely in good faith and entirely from a perspective of somebody who believes what he believes, like, very truly. And I'm not trying to change his beliefs at all. I'm just expressing. I just thought we were having a conversation about, like, you know, what we both believe and stuff like that. And I think that those kind of, like, I think that, like, the ideas he's expressing to me, I think they're, you know, I find them enriching. I find it very I find that his perspective to be very interesting and valuable. And I'm not, you know me, I'm not a Jack Talcott type. I'm not a new agey kind of like I think everybody just needs to, like, love each other, man. You know, I'm not that kind of guy. I don't think a Wiccan is getting into the kingdom of heaven. You know what I'm saying? You know,
from our perspective, like a true Orthodox Christian, it's like when we talk about love, right? It's like if I truly love my neighbor or I love my brother, you know, I would warn him of something that
you would tell him the truth, no matter what. Exactly.
You know, it's like I can't in good faith say, like, you know, like if I was having an exchange with a Catholic, I couldn't in good faith say that it's okay to be a papist if I believe truly it's a heresy according to my saints, you know, in the church. So it's like there's you know, it could come off as if it's like you're being too strict or too this or too that. But, you know, if we're not discerning these things and really getting to the core of them, and like, you know, a lot of times I'm not going off of what I'm saying. These are not things that I've said that I just made up. I'm going off of, I trust the patristics. I trust the councils. I trust, you know, what Orthodoxy as the church has spoken on these subjects. And then I relay that, you know, I just trust it. Again, this is like crucifying the mind. That's my biggest thing, is like I've crucified my mind and I've said I trust the church. And even when it seems absurd to, you know, the secular scholar or the atheist or whoever it might be, you know, this is the position I take. And I'm not going to argue in a deist sense or any of that. I'm going to go to the patristics. I believe in miracles. I believe that there's things that are beyond human comprehension, you know, and that seems perfectly logical to me. That doesn't seem illogical at all. You know, that God would be higher than man's understanding, right? And that saints that have lived out in the desert for 40, 50 years studying these patristic texts would have an understanding that the modern man wouldn't have. So, I mean, you know, but I'll be back, guys. I'll be right back.
All right. No, I mean, I think what he said was, yeah, I really respect Unseen. I think he's good faith, and
I just made the distinction because I think obviously you and I dealt with a lot of weird like fake people who are like just trying to like do this kind of weird mental jujitsu on us and stuff like that. So.
No, I mean, I've been on people.
No, he's literally like getting stalked by those people, like because he's trying to like say like you guys are selling, like when he's talking about the ecumenical thing, like, oh, you know, every path is good. These guys say, well, we don't agree with that either. But then it's like the people that they're, you know, under, like the people that they're, you know, above them. That's what they say, right? So it's kind of weird. It's like they kind of do this double. They kind of do this double speak in a sense. Does that make sense? So it's like that's why he's kind of being precise with a lot of that, because a lot of people are playing these kind of weird games where they're like, we're against it, but then like the people in charge of my entire church isn't against it, but then I'm trying to like change things from inside, and he's trying to, so he's trying to distance himself away from that because he sees that as like very dangerous, So. Because you're kind of like licensed, you're kind of like saying that it's okay, but in a roundabout way. You know what I mean? So.
Absolutely. I mean, people like Unseen are good people. Anybody that I can have an honest, good faith conversation with, I'm gonna like gravitate.
Yeah, and so it's not even about what you're saying, because I think you're making a more nuanced take, but I think a lot of it, like the truth, like the way he's trying to point out, is like a lot of Christianity has obviously been like occulted, right? And so like when you say that like the Book of Revelations as like an occult like interpretation, like
not a
from a
cult.
certain.
I mean, I'd use the term occult in the general. That's all I mean. When I say cult, I forget that most people don't have. I forget that most people don't have that in mind. They think of Satanism, right? They think of like people. I say occulted in the sense that it means hidden. I don't know, and I shouldn't do that because that's really bad. That's really bad form. And when you're talking to people that don't have those kind of those terms in mind, but I am a year outside of Panelverse and stuff like that, so I guess I've been in my head too much for too long, so I forget that, and I end up using terms that are going to confuse people when I say that. When I say occulted, I only mean in this sense that the term occult means hidden. And that's the actual
Right, or hard to find maybe or something like that. And I think like honestly, I have a similar take on like the Book of Revelation. Like honestly, like in a sense where I was like, first of all, I don't think many people should know what it means. Second of all, if you do know what it means, you can obviously use it to manipulate people, and I think that's how it's been used, right? And then I think another sense, like people interpret it in many different ways to mean many different things for many different people for many different reasons. So there's like a combination of all three kind of going on, I guess. If that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
I mean, I think Book of Revelations has been manipulated and used. I mean, but in my interpretation of it being from the historical perspective of it being like a kind of a hidden history of the world, kind of like filtered through this kind of like a Gnostic-ish. I don't necessarily think that John was a Gnostic per se in the more traditional sense, but that I think that his understanding of Christ and everything was a little greater than other people, and he also understood the fact, and he was also putting these things in these terms. He was hiding them and coaching them in terms that allowed him to get those letters out so that the people that would probably, I mean, it's like being in prison, right? He was in prison. He was in prison on this island. Like they weren't just like letting him just send these letters out to anybody. I'm sure they were reading them. They were screening these letters so that, that he wasn't like communicating anything to it. So he was having to he was putting this stuff into these terms so that they could get through, so that people would just think he was crazy. That's what makes sense to me anyway. Because otherwise, why write it in such obscure and like as the term I use?
Well, I think it's the same. I think it's part of the same reason you don't like Paul too, because like when I read, I think that he's saying things on a poetic level that is timeless, right? It's just like the Tao Te Ching or something, right? Like if you're trying to say things that are like timeless and spaceless and stuff like this, you have to say it in a way where it's like, huh?
The things I like about Paul's writings are the poetic things. The things I don't like about Paul's writings is whenever he comes to church, like the actual administration of the church and putting and imposing this Jewish orthodoxy upon the body of Christ, and putting these these rule-based kind of things that people should have hair of this length and that kind of shit, that's where I come across that's where I have the conflicts with Paul, and I think it's where Paul went off.
Well, I think for those specific parts, but I think that would be kind of cool to go through, because I definitely remember that, and I was like, I got a sense that he was kind of speaking still in poetic. I think a lot of what he was saying, even the stuff that seemed not poetic, was kind of like this kind of weird poetic,
maybe. I mean,
thing or
something. I haven't read the letters of Paul strictly from that perspective before, so it would be cool to go through and kind of look at them and see if we'd see them from that perspective. I would be interested in doing that. I'm just saying that, but from the perspective I always took it from, at least I grew up in the church. The churches I grew up in used the letters of Paul to justify things like men can't have hair of a certain length, and women have to wear hats.
Right. That was a Catholic church, or that was like a Protestant church?
That was a Protestant church, but it was still very much subservient to those Catholic kind of ideas because of the letters of being in.
Well, Machine writes a lot about Paul in his book, and mostly and not in good light. But I've talked to him personally about that as well, and he's like, well, it's not only necessarily how what Paul was intending, it's kind of how he was used, right? And I think that's the distinction I would make. It's it's not necessarily what he was saying per se, it's definitely how it was used to
I think
you
a
know,
lot
see
of the
people.
writings of Paul were probably corrupted, honestly, by Catholic interlocutors around the Council of Nicaea and things like that. That the canonization of the scriptures was I think a corrupted process. That's where it's one of the first things I read of the Rosicrucians that attracted me, or like that made me interested in those writings was the term from the Chemical Wedding about the 13 books of truth or something like that being bound with the riffraff, basically referring to the letters of John versus and I think there's two others that aren't John, two other writers and that aren't included, and everything else being more or less being more or less corrupted scriptures, which is one of the beliefs of the Rosicrucians. But anyway, but I don't think there isn't enough writing from the Rosicrucians, from the actual Rosicrucians from the 13th century or whatever, 14th century maybe, I can't remember the actual dates, but there aren't enough of them. There's only the three letters, the Chemical Wedding and the Declaration, and one other thing that are actually known to be actual from the Rosicrucians, attributed to Christian Rosicrucians himself. Everything else is from Rudolf Steiner and shit. So. And Rudolf Steiner is a really interesting guy, and he had some interesting ideas. So I don't know that how accurate or how truthful any of it was. He was also kind of someone who had a real lust for power, so he was very much into being like a guru. So that kind of that makes me feel like he's kind of a false prophet in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, but maybe people will think the same thing about me. So but I'm not trying to convince anybody of my beliefs. I just like to share them with people because I feel like that maybe the ideas I have that have been brought to me might be useful to somebody else, even if it just sharpens their own ideas. I think there's a value in communicating those things, even if they aren't the absolute truth. The fact that I believe them sincerely should allow someone else to hear them and to be able to digest them, and maybe that would help them to sharpen their own shit. So anyway, but yeah, Unseen, if you're out there, man, I just want to tell you, much love for you, man. I do not I don't want you don't give the impression that I have any animosity towards you. I'm not a new age wacko. I don't think that that as long as you believe that love is the real, I don't believe in that shit. I do believe
Yes, you do. You're a wacko, yakko, and no, just kidding.
I'm a Discordian. So you can't trust anything you read. So
I knew it. One of them daggone spaghetti monster worshiping son bitches.
I believe in the principle of Discordia. But
it's funny. What's really funny is there is a lot of Discordians who actually hate Christianity around, and I think that's the funny thing of where it's just funny because it really does feel sometimes like they're just trying to come in and basically stifle real conversation on this level, right? And it's it's kind of funny, because
that's because the concept that the original that Kerry Thornley and Greg Hill established, the Principia Discordia, were corrupted by I can't remember the guy's name right now. I don't know why it's escaping me, but the guy that wrote the Illuminatus trilogy, and the guy the later incarnations of Discordianism, which the Church of the Subgenius and stuff, which just basically became New Atheism.
What's funny? Sorry to interrupt you, but really quick. Church of the Subgenius, if you don't mind, just really briefly. It's important.
I didn't hear it. All I heard was real quickly, and then you cut out, and then I heard Church of the Subgenius. So I don't know what else you said there.
I was switching audio. So really quick, what do you think about what is the deal with the Church of the Subgenius? Who started it and why, in your opinion?
I can't remember the name of the guy that started it. I'm not even sure it's entirely known, but I mean, you know, like the whole like cult of Bob thing and all this stuff like that. You know, like the cult. I mean, Church of the Subgenius is basically an offshoot of Discordianism, even though it's a claim to be. But it is very much like you can't read their original tenets without like. But it eventually evolved into what, you know, like even like what you know, a big atheist guy, you know, guy wrote the God Delusion, Dawkins. You know, Dawkins, like, you know, even as mentioned the flying spaghetti monster thing, and like a lot of that came from Church of the Subgenius. Church of the Subgenius is a very, very cynical version of Discordianism, which actually isn't very cynical at all. Discordianism is more about a sense of kind of a sense of like a wonder or joy of looking at the world.
It's like a Jim Carrey. It's like a Jim Carrey-esque version of.
You know,
what
it's
I
funny
mean?
you mentioned Jim Carrey. I used to have this. I used to have this like dream. I wanted to do a movie. I wanted to write a movie, make a movie about Discordianism called The Principia of Discordia. And I really wanted to cast Jim Carrey as Carey Thornley. I thought that Jim Carrey was.
I think he did do something about that, but I
Really?
can't remember what it was. Something related to that. Yeah.
You might be thinking of the number 23, which is
Yeah, exactly.
which is a movie he did, which is kind of like loosely related because the number 23 is a core kind of stochastic principle of the Principia Discordia. But I mean, that movie is just kind of a paranoid, like conspiratorial, like rant that doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't really go anywhere. It turns into just kind of general. It just kind of turns into general conspiratorial stuff. It's not a very good movie. I wanted to like it so much, but like I couldn't. I've watched it a few times too because I every time I keep thinking like, oh, it'd be worth like, you know, revisiting, and I watch it, and it's just not. But
Right.
But yeah, you know, him and also what's the Ryan Reynolds also did a very similar type thing. He did like this movie called The Nines that was also kind of related to that as well. But yeah, there's something about I just always thought that that Jim Carrey and Benicio del Toro would have made the perfect, like, you know, a pair to play Carey Thornley and Greg Hill. You know, like they were just like born to play those roles. You know, there's so many great parts of the Principia Discordia, like the whole like the revelation of the Principia Discordia. It all takes place in a bowling alley, you know. Like they're playing bowling, and all of a sudden, like time stops, and like this monkey appears and says, "Gentlemen, we have nipple, yet we do not give milk." Things like that.
Right.
But like the incongruent, like kind of like this the Discordian principle is just like looking at the chaos around us, and like and recognizing the fact that there is an element of chaos in everything that we do, and everything we believe. And like I think there's something essential about Discordianism. The reason why I consider myself a Christian, but I'm also a Discordian, because I think there is a value in understanding and recognizing the inherent absurdity of our lives. That's really...
I can agree with you on that, and I think that's like, well, the reason I ask is because like you know, like Jay Dyer's wife, I think, was involved in like the Church of the Subgenius, and then she invented something called, she said she invented something called like slack magic or something, and and I wasn't sure exactly like what that's about, but
I don't know what that's about at all. Yeah. And the Church of the Subgenius is like, if you ever seen like the Bob thing, like it's like this old timey like 50s like illustration of like a guy just smoking a pipe. You know, that's Bob. He's like the Christ figure of the Subgenius. It's basically just Discordianism with all the joy taken out and turned into something that's very like cynical, and it's essentially just New Atheism before New Atheism existed.
It's funny, like that's what's funny about a lot of the New Age stuff is like it actually takes the joy out. Even like the charismatic stuff, like the charismatic Christianity, like it's like this fake joy. Like I don't know if you've ever been around those kind of like charismatic church people, but it's like very fake, like jump fruit type of like stuff. And like I used to go, I went to one or two like in my teens because there was a lot around. I was like, this is like this fake like happiness and happy joy, and he's just gonna
I think what I find valuable in Discordianism is the is the recognition of the absurd in our lives, and the fact that like there's kind of like there's humor in it. You know, there's recognize the humor in the ironies that exist in our basic human form. You know, that there's like, you know, like the ideas that like, you know, that it's really, because it isn't a refutation of Christianity or a refutation of any kind of spiritual system that exists, but it's intended to kind of sit on top of it. It's kind of a recognition of absurdity.
Well, I think the movie Yes Man was about that too. Do you remember Yes Man with Jim Carrey? I think that's kind of related to it, actually. I would love
to talk to Jim Carrey, but Jim Carrey at least 10 years ago, he would be related to whenever he did like the because a lot of those things are things that he himself he's very interested in. Obviously, like you see the movie projects he shows and stuff like that.
You know, like I thought he was just being like woke and anti-Trump before, but like I think he's actually doing like he's doing a weird like internal something or another, and the fact that he did a lot of it on he did it on Colbert and he did it on like some of the late night shows, like he was very clearly doing like a strange I don't think, what's funny is like I don't think a lot of the people like him who are doing this like Discordian like anti-Trump thing, I don't necessarily think that they're against Trump. I think they're doing like a weird like theatrical production about like their critique of what he's doing. It's hard to explain, but if you ever watch his like anti-Trump like appearances where he did like this whole like anti-Trump stuff, it was really interesting. It's
it doesn't seem very sincere. It doesn't seem very sincere. I agree. I mean, it seems like he's doing a bit. I agree with that, but I don't know what to make of it. If he's doing a bit, I'm not really sure what the point of it is, but like I do think that there is something.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that means that like he doesn't actually have a critique of Trump or something, but I'm just saying.
We all do, right?
Yeah, but what I think it is like he's doing like an occult critique. I think he's doing like a weird occult critique of Trump, where it's almost like you know, he's a bad man because he's doing these things, but it's actually like he's kind of saying something to the effect of like, well, he's kind of saying a little bit too much in this way, and he should be saying a little bit more in this way, and it's kind of I can't remember all the details, but I just remember watching quite a few of them, and I was like, Jim Carrey was definitely doing. It wasn't political. I'll put it that way. I don't think he was doing a political critique. I think he was doing a spiritual thing or something. It's pretty interesting. Like I think he's someone who's hard to. It's really hard for me to think about because, like, first of all, he's Canadian, and like actually, like him, Harlan Williams. Like, there's a lot of Norm Macdonald. A lot of these Canadian comedians, they have a very interesting Tom Green. You know, they have a very interesting kind of Discordian edge to them that they really know how to critique things in a very peculiar way, and I think there's something to that for sure. I can't quite place where it fits into what we're talking about, but
I'm with you there. I don't entirely know where it fits in either, but I know what you mean. Like, have you seen Imaginarium with Dr. Parnassus, for example? You know, Terry Gilliam also a very Discordian type. Like a man who has literally he's so much the Don Quixote of filmmaking that he tried to make a film about Don Quixote that turned into a metaphor for Don Quixote. I mean, look at this guy. He tried to make this man, the man who killed Don Quixote, tried to make it like 3 times. He finally made it, and the film wasn't very, very greatly respected or anything.
Well, it's funny you say it that way too, because there's somebody else who I wish I could remember who they're talking about, but they were calling somebody else like Don Quixote. And I think that story must have been like a very occult story, because a lot of people they've definitely used that a lot in the sense where they've used that as like an internal critique of something, but it's hard to explain. But
I mean, seriously, the Imaginary of Dr. Parnassus, if you've never seen it, it is probably, it's a quote unquote occult film. I mean, by using the term of occult in that classic sense, it's an occult film the same way that like a lot of the films of Kenneth Anger and what's the guy that made Santa Sangra and made Topo and stuff like in the 70s. You know, like the guy that almost directed Star Wars, directed Empire Strikes Back. I mean, he went on. He did like he did Dune. He was going to make Dune. What's his name, Lindsay? Like, you know. Anyway, there's a whole documentary about the guy's Dune production that is that I can't remember his name. He's a Spanish filmmaker, but like his stuff especially, but like Dr. Ponce, but he made a lot of films like occult films. He made like the what was it, the Magic the Magic Mountain or something like that. I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, he made all these really weird kind of occult films, and him like I think Parnassus is on the same level of those films. It's a very, very coded, very deep film, and like the fact that like if you go back, if you could find him, there's interviews with him about Heath Ledger's death. Heath Ledger was originally the star of this movie, and Heath Ledger dies in the middle of it, and he's basically stating that like he's basically suggesting that somebody killed Heath Ledger for being involved in this movie. He's saying he said that in some interviews and stuff like that, and it's kind of creepy. And like you look at, and then like what he do, he has like the biggest actors in all of freaking filmmaking. He has Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and what's his name? Like he was the Penguin recently. Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell, all three like stepped in to like film his remaining scenes as different forms of this Heath Ledger character. And there's something really there's a depth to it that I can't even say I fully understand it, but there's definitely something in that like there's something like that's being like kind of revealed, I think, in that film that I don't fully know. I'm not saying I understand it entirely, but there's definitely something to it. I mean, Terry Gilliam and like that whole thing. I think that I would probably think that all of those people that are involved there, and Jim Carrey and a couple other people are probably in. There's like a slight weird Discordian kind of like Gnostic kind of like sect of Hollywood that's been trying to make these kind of movies for years and stuff like that. Like they put these stuff out there. It's like that's coated with all this stuff. And it sounds really crazy and conspiratorial, but I mean, there's almost no other way to see it. Like, I mean, like,
well,
like
there definitely is. Well, no, there is definitely a big part of it. I mean, I could get it. I have a lot to say on the subject, honestly. Like on it, I could literally, like, if I were smart, what I would do is just shut all the things I've already done down and just do only movie reviews like this, because, or like media reviews or something, kind of, something like Jay Dyer does, but just do it, in my own way.
Well,
because
that's my other channel I'm trying to start is that like I me and you we're making this thing we're doing, which we're going to talk about here, but I'm also trying to start this channel. I haven't gotten very far because I've just been like so like I've been so like focused on family and stuff lately. But
yeah, well, I've started doing some movie reviews. Like I kind of started doing I did one for Star Trek. I kind of did half of one for Jurassic Park. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I'm definitely like, I've kind of been ramping up. Like I want to start doing like more like occult reviews of like all this kind of movies and media and stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd like to involve you in that too. My channel is concept is called appreciation porn, or prawn, I guess. Like as I styled it. And like one of the first things I'm going to do is an in-depth analysis of Bluey. Actually, the children's show Bluey is actually, I mean, strangely enough, is one of the most profound, pieces of media that's been produced in my lifetime. Here, it is amazing.
That's such a troll thing to say, but it's probably true. It's probably true though. Like I've watched it a few times. Like I took my kids to like this like class thing, and they played Bluey as part of it. Mm-hmm. And first of all, like it's Australian. Second of all, it's dogs. Third of all, like it seems like a very milquetoast version of like Rugrats, but they're dogs.
Yeah.
Or like Peppa the Pig. But then like there's something else about it where it's like it's so like
dude, what?
It's so NLP or something like that. I don't know. It's like
all you have to do is watch. It's 7 minutes long. Watch what, and you can find it on YouTube. It's an episode of the show called Flat Pack, FLATPACK. Okay, watch that and tell me that it's not one of the most profound things you've ever seen. It whenever I finally watched it, it played in the background of my child like loves Bluey. She's adorned in all Bluey clothing right now. Okay, she loves Bluey. All of her cups are Bluey. She loves Bluey stuff. Okay, so I was saturated with Bluey stuff, but I was ignoring it because it was kid stuff, right? You know, and like and one day like while she was watching it, I started watching this episode of this episode called Flat Pack, and by the end of it, I was I was in tears. I was a mess. I was just like, I was sobbing. It's one of the most profound things I've ever seen. It's about death. It's about the purpose of life. It's insane, dude. It really is. I get choked up thinking about it. It's insane. It's unlike, and the fact of the matter is, it does it in 7 minutes. 7 minutes is the most economical, precise writing I've ever seen in my life. I want to talk to this person that made the show so badly. I can't even tell you. Like I would devote myself to. I would become a student of this man. To understand how he writes, because his writing is so incredibly precise, and so like in 7 minutes he basically distilled the entire history of mankind. It's unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I seriously like. I mean, like, we can watch it on stream or something. I'd be happy to put it up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Sorry, my son's talking to me. Sorry, I was.
No, absolutely. I understand. Like, take care of your kids, man. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, like, ignore me over your kids anytime. But
no, I was listening. He's asking me a question, and probably what I'm gonna do is I'll jump off here just because I gotta help him do a little learning right now.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, like, everybody else is left with it.
But yeah, we don't even have viewers anymore. But and it's okay. It's not a big deal. But what I'll do. What I'll do is I'll message you later. I mean, I might go live later, but I just gotta concentrate on what I'm doing now. So
I hear you. I need to go focus on her too. So like you're all right, man. Like we'll talk later. Have a good evening. I'll talk to you later.
You too. See you soon. Bye.
Leslie said bye. Bye.